Good afternoon and good afternoon and welcome to the Bookmaker Masterclass. My name is Anita Okanibejan. I'm an author and I am the executive consultant at Apex Laurel. It is my singular honor to work alongside you this afternoon for the next 3 hours. I want to say thank you for being a part of this program, this amazing program. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know that some of you are, joining us from different part of the world. Some of you are probably, joining us from your office, your home, or maybe you're on vacation. But before we start, I just wanted to do something for me. Could you please just sit up straighter? Yes, you heard me correctly. Sit up straighter. And why did I say you should do that? Because today you are not here as someone who wants to write a book someday. No, you are here as an author. You are only catching up to what's already true. So not only should you sit up straighter, I need you to also, pat yourself at the back because you deserve that. Now, this year, the Bookmaker Masterclass carries the theme, The Author Within, and the subtitle says everything. Become the author before you write the book. We are not here today to teach you grammar. No, we're not. We're not here to teach you grammar or formatting. That's not what we're here. We're here to do something even deeper. And what is that? To help you become an identity in the person whose story is worth telling. I know that your story is worth telling, and that's why we are here, and that's why you are here. So again, you are welcome. Now, if you don't mind, I want you to tell me, what is the one thing, one word, just one word that describes the book you've been carrying? Not the topic, not the theme, not the topic, but, the feeling. The feeling. Is it grief? Is it freedom? Is it redemption? Whatever it is, can you just type it right now? I'm going to read out some of those words and I'm going to read it out loud. So I'm just going to give you a few minutes to just type it out. Okay, go ahead. I'm waiting and I am watching. Okay. Okay, I can see happy. I can see excited. Oh my God. More. You guys keep writing, keep writing. I mean, that feeling, keep writing, keep writing. I'm waiting. I can see some people are, excited about the book they want to write. Go ahead, go ahead. Can we have just one more? One more. What is that one word, like I said, that describe what you're feeling today? Just one word. Okay. If we don't have another, I'm happy to read it, as some of you are saying that you're happy, you are excited, which is amazing. And let's move on. Now, here's how our afternoon move on. We're going to hear from our founder, an amazing woman. I'm sure some of you already know her, Fejiro Anita Ebuno. She's going to be talking about the author within. And then we're going to have another amazing speaker, Mine Ebuno. She'll walk with us through, healing, mindset, and the voice. She's going to show us how to think like a published author. A lot of us don't know how to think. We want to write a book, but we don't know that there's a mindset about writing a book even before you become an author. So she's going to walk us through that. And then we will close today with a live panel where you can ask anything that's been on your mind, anything that you've been thinking of, you've been wondering, as regard being an author writing a book. You're going to have all that answer, throughout, the panel. And then of course, you're going to have moi. I'm going to be talking about my own story. So now, before we transition into that, let me take the few the next few minutes, just a few minutes, to actually show you what living like an author looks like. Because I had the privilege, I call it a privilege. I know that it might be, others might not see it that way, but for me, it is a privilege to walk through the hard way of knowing what it is to write a book, even long before I knew that I wanted to become, an author, or have the right to teach people how to become an author. And all this was documented in my book, called my autobiography, called Miracle in the Storm. And I'm just going to, walk you through that. So just give me a few minutes. I'm going to share my slide and tell you my story. Okay, just a minute. Okay, we're almost there. Okay. So I hope everyone can see my screen. I want to start by asking why. A lot of people would ask, why do I want to become an author? Why should I become an author? Why should I write a book? And my answer is, the answer I always give everybody who asks me that question is, because every life is already a story being written, whether you like it or not. The only question is, who holds the pen? Is someone else writing the story for you, or you are writing the story? Either way, somebody has the pen, And my single answer is, it's in this, captured in this three. Your life is a story either way. You are producing a narrative right now, in this role, in this season, even in this room, whether or not you are choosing the words by yourself or someone is choosing it for you. Number two, authorship is agency. To author a book, to write a book, is to move from being narrated by circumstances to narrating your own circumstances. That is, you're not allowing the circumstances to write your story for you, but you are the one writing the story by yourself. The same shift that separates management from leadership. And of course, the third one is self before others. Every leader who authors culture, whether it's strategy, whether it's legacy for other people, first had to author their own story. Remember that. They have to first write their own story, because authorship of self precedes authorship of everything else. Now, there is a cost of an authored life. There is a cost to it. And people think that it's just, I don't have to write a book. Like I said, it's either you're writing it yourself or somebody else is writing it. Either way, someone is writing the book. Now, what is the cost? I have two slides here. An authored life, you are just being reactive. You're being shaped by what happens to you. While an authored life, you are being intentional. You are shaped by decisions you make by yourself, not decisions that others make for you. And on the other side, an authored life, you're drifting from one chapter to the next. You're just drifting. But when you have an authored life, guess what? You are deliberate about which chapter comes first. You can say to yourself, I do this first, I do that first. You are in charge. You have the pen in your hand. And then an authored life, you're defined by circumstances or other people's opinion. But on the other hand, you are defined by conviction and chosen value. You are you write what you're convinced about, and you have your values that you chose for yourself, not anybody else. Now, the other hand, on the right hand, you're silent about the story that is actually true. You've lost your voice, you can't speak, and so you become silent. But on the other hand, you're vocal about the story you are actually building. And as an authored life, guess what? You are stuck rereading old chapters on a loop. But when you author your own life, guess what? You are ready to close a chapter and write the next. My goodness, isn't that good? Now, a lot of people don't know that their habits, you must imbibe before you can author a book. And I have here the different habits and mindset and discipline, and I'm just going to quickly run through them. There is a framework that this habits, mindset, and discipline are all framework you need to imbibe, you need to culture, you need to learn to have. This framework works only when these three things are in place. And what are these habits? I'll just quickly read it out. What you should practice as an author: daily reflections. You need to write down before you let it write to you. If you don't write it down, guess what? Like I said, is it that you're writing your story or someone else is writing? So you need to write it down before it writes to you. Now, wide reading. Authors are readers first. You can't say you want to write a book when you have not even picked up a paper. You've not even picked up a paper or other people's book to read. You must first be a reader. Bold perspective shapes your own voice. And then the last one is protected silence. You need to guard quiet time to think before you decide. You need to think. There is power in thinking. You need to think before you begin to write. So the question is, do you have these three habits? Now let's move to mindset. What kind of mindset must you have? These are things that you believe about yourself. Number one, ownership over blame. The pen is yours even when the chapter wasn't. Like I said, the pen is in your hand. It's already yours. So what are you doing with that pen? Are you just sitting down looking at the pen and looking at yourself in the mirror? Or you are actually, doing something about it? Now, the next one is progress over perfection. Every draft can be revisited. Nothing is final. Some people would say, some people, their problem is perfection. They're perfectionists. They just want it to be perfect before they publish a book. No, just write it and publish it. You can always rewrite it. You can always revisit it. You can always edit it. Don't wait until it is perfect. We don't have time for that. Then the last one is legacy over the moment. I need you to see today as one chapter, not the whole book. Take a chapter at a time. Don't wait to want to write the entire book. You might never write that book, okay? So take it one chapter at a time. Then the next one is discipline. What must you be committed to? Number one, very important, consistency. Consistency. You can't start today and stop tomorrow. Start today, next week you stop, and then no, you must be consistent. Show up on the page even without inspiration. Don't wait until you have one big, massive inspiration, one aha moment. No, just show up every day, be disciplined about it. And then the next thing is radical honesty. Tell the true story, especially in the unflattering parts. Sometimes some of us have written our autobiographies, and you know what autobiographies are, where you write your own story, right? There's some ugly parts, some mess. I believe that my story was first a mess, before it became a messy for others. And don't try to edit those mess. Just write everything, put everything down there. And then the last one is guarded boundaries. Protect your narrative from other people's noise. There's going to be so much noise coming left, right, and center, even from your own family, from your own home, from your own place, from your people, from your own people. You need to guard your narrative. Let's move on. So I'm just going to quickly run through the author's framework that 6 deliberate moves that turn a life into a legacy. It's not just about you writing a book, right? We want to build a legacy. That is the goal. Number one, awareness. You need to know the story that you are actually living. Like I said, your life is already a story. So either you're writing it down or somebody is writing it. And then you must have an unapologetic voice. Say the true things in your own words. Don't let somebody describe your life. Don't let somebody describe you. And then you need to take the pen. Choose legacy over circumstances. Take that pen and write. Stop looking at the pen. Take it. Do what you're supposed to do with that pen. Then honor your chapters. Integrate the past instead of hiding it. Some of us, like I said, I had a messy past, right? Some of us have a messy past. Don't hide it. Don't. Just integrate it into the book you're writing. And then own your narrative. Let no one else hold the pen for you. You're either writing, I keep saying it, or someone else is writing. Ensure that you are the one holding the pen. Never allow anyone to take the pen away from you. And lastly, revise boldly. Edit without shame. Like I said, don't wait until it's perfect. You can revisit it, edit, correct, do whatever you need to do as often as needed. Now, for many of us who lead from a place of faith, as you all know, the presenter, the mind behind this masterclass is a Christian. I am a Christian, and most of us are Christian. We lead from a place of faith, authorship, but we're never meant to. What's what I'm looking for? Meant to be a solo act. Because as Christians, scripture describes each of us as a workmanship that is still being written, a life that is crafted into intention, for purpose, prepared long before we picked up the pen. Now, guess what? It does not remove your pen. It doesn't remove your pen. What it does, it steady your hands. You remember, you already have the pen in your hand, right? So all you need to do, steady your hand and go to work. Write that book. You are not writing alone. You're not writing without purpose. We're working with God. Each chapter, even the difficult ones. I remember when writing my autobiography, I spent most time crying because it was so difficult to pen down, but I had to write it anyway. Now, even like I said, even the most difficult one, it's being woven into legacy that outlast the page you are currently on. It will live longer than you. Once you put it out there, guess what? If you die in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, or whatever years, your legacy has been built by that book. That book will still be there and people get to read it. Now, this kingdom of authorship, remember, God is a God of kingdom, right? He owns a kingdom and we are part of that kingdom. So this kingdom of authorship, co-writing with the author, when I mean the author, I'm talking about God, the one who called you into the story in the first place. Now, you may want to ask, how did I become an author? Remember, I said that when I was introducing myself, I said I'm an author and a consultant, right? Now, how did I become an author? My mess, for me, it wasn't supposed to become a message until I pick up the pen. Today, my mess has become a message for others. There were seasons in my life where I wouldn't have chosen for myself long nights with, questions and answers, so many mess, so many pain, sleepless nights I had to go to bed sleeping, and if only my pillow could talk, I wonder what kind of story to tell today because of the pain, the betrayal, the frustration, everything. But guess what? Eventually, all that mess was put together into my autobiography called Miracle in the Storm. And that is what you see here. And guess what? This book has helped to transform life all over the world. And there's so many testimonies, like someone saying, I was going to commit suicide, but I read your book and I'm alive today. So I just want to encourage you to pick up the pen if you haven't. And if you're already holding the pen, hold it steady because you're about to leave a legacy. Now, like I said, pick up the pen. You already know your voice. You already have the voice. You already know your voice. Don't let anyone silence you. You already know your values. The only thing left is a decision to write. So start writing. Start writing. Okay. Now, it is my honor to introduce the woman who It's my honor to introduce the woman whose book cracked open a life. Guess what? She didn't know she was allowed to want. She came to this country as an immigrant engineer, and she spent 6 years earning a master's degree in the field that never felt like home. until she wrote, guess what? Her first book. And everything, I mean, every single thing changed. Today, she's a global leader. She's an author. She's an entrepreneur. And she's a purpose strategist. She's also the founder of Child of Zion. She's the founder of Febono and the Purpose University, and also the co-founder of Two Sides of a Coin. She's built her life around equipping people to turn their potential into purpose, financial freedom, and lasting impact. Please join me. If your hand is not busy, please join me to welcome our very own Fejiro Anita Ebuno.
My God.
The floor is yours, Fejiro.
What a nice introduction. I wasn't expecting that. Welcome everybody to the Bookmaker Masterclass 2026. If you're excited, I want to see the chats moving. I want to see excited. I want to see blessed. I want to see the chat move, guys. Come on. I know that it's the afternoon and it's a Saturday and you will be doing something else, but coming here, it's a decision for a better future, right? It's the sacrifice that you're making today for a better future. So I want to see the chat moving, excitement. Well, Joy is dancing. Oh, I love that dress. Is that Sasa? Alare is excited. I want to see more chats. Come on. Oh, Chantel is clapping her hands. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Anita, for hosting this event, for being the MC of this event. I am more than excited to be here. And we are going to be Vivian is dancing as well. Well, I can tell from the chat that you guys are excited, which is very, very good for me because I'm happy to see that you guys are ready to learn, ready to be equipped. But today, we're not really talking about how the 5 steps to writing the book and the 100 steps to figuring things out. That's not what we're doing today. Today, we're talking about the identity. Now, I'm going to pull my slides real quick so that we can take moments to phantom today, to be able to be excited for today. I cannot wait to see what you guys learn. I seriously can't wait to see what you guys learn. But in the meantime, I want to ask you guys a question real quick. Just a very quick question. How did you find out about the Bookmaker Masterclass? Can you guys put in the chat? How did you guys find out about the Bookmaker Masterclass? I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. Okay. How did you guys find out about the Bookmaker Masterclass? And if a friend or a family or basically you got it via email or however you got to know. Oh, for me. Oh, yeah. Welcome, Chantel. Welcome. I actually met Chantel at a confidence conference. I learned about it at the golf event. Wow. From me. Wow. Okay. Well, today you will not go empty-handed. You're going to learn a little bit about identity and the importance of what identity is. I'm going to share my slides and we're going to get started. What is the author within? Some people are probably asking, like, all these things you've been talking about. We've been hearing about it. We've gotten emails about it. What is the author within? What is it about? Why the author within? What's the concept of it? Why do I have to focus on my identity? Today it's about, you understanding the importance of writing and the identity involved in writing. For me, as she explained earlier, writing it's not my best suit. I actually hated reading. And if anybody hated reading here, you can just put it in the chat. Like I also anytime hated reading. I did not like to read books. I'll be honest with you. I don't like reading books. It wasn't something that I enjoyed. It wasn't something that I felt good doing. Um, until one day a friend of mine gave me a book, and I can never forget the book. It was written Knowing God's Plan for Your Life by Kenneth E. Hagin. And I opened the book and I was like, I'm not going to read this book. Let me just be honest with myself. There is no way that me and you, Vivian, it's God's grace to read a book. So I was like, I cannot, I don't have it in me to read a book. But I read it. And when I read the book, it changed my entire life. My entire life was changed off of a book. And I asked myself a question: if a book can transform my life like this, I wonder what else can. Because the truth is, for me, I really thought that, books were just, doing your thing and, you know, just focusing on book itself and figuring out what exactly is writing about, what exactly is trying to write a book about, and so much more. But I realized something, that a book is a message, right? It carries your story, it speaks about who you are as an individual. And the book itself, where people always focus on is, oh, I want to write this book. I want to get this book out there. I want to see how the book is going to transform me. I want my voice to be out there. But do you know something that's very important, is that the book is not the beginning. I said it. Your book doesn't begin with writing. It doesn't begin with writing the first page. It actually it begins with you becoming the author within, transforming your life, transforming your thinking, transforming your thought process, transforming how you view a book. Those are how your book actually starts. You see, a book is an outcome, and the authorship is an identity. And I think that if you can see from the illustration here, you can see that the book is smaller and the author is large. Why? Because authorship does not begin with the physical book, right? It doesn't begin with that. It begins with who you are as an individual. So I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you, if your book isn't the beginning, then what do you think is? And I know I said it's, you becoming the author within. And you see, one of the issues I've seen many people go through is that they think they don't have a book because of something that they think is the normal thing that people always talk about. But do you know why many people never write a book? I know this one personally because I actually went through it myself. It's not an idea problem. And when I mean idea, I mean thoughts that come into your thought process. It's not an experience problem. You have the experience in a field. You've probably been doing it for numerous times of years. It's not that. It's not a story problem. So you have the story written down. You've always had it in you and all of that. It's not that. It's not the message, because everybody I know has a message. So you can see that there are many people that say, I want to write a book. But there is a huge gap, a very massive gap between I want to write the book and I am an author. And the gap here is identity. Because the problem is not, oh, sorry. I don't know what just happened here. Give me a second. I'm having some technical issues. Well, as I was saying, the problem is not I'm an author, or I can't write my book, or is because I have issues writing my book. The problem is your identity. What do you say about writing a book? What do you think books are? What do you even think a story is? And if I'm to ask you, which side of the gap are you on? For you to be here today, many of you do want to write a book, and I'm very sure that you do want to write a book. But the issue is that there's such a gap between you and the actual written book. So let's go through some of the cost of not publishing your book. You can see Anita talked a little bit about her story and how writing her story helped numerous amount of people. But you know, there are costs, hidden costs of staying unpublished. So many hidden costs. I can try to list all of them, but these are the few that I've seen even in my life and the life of other authors that I've dealt with. The first cost is your message. Every one of us carries a message, meaning we have something that someone needs to hear that will transform their lives. But those things remain unheard. Why do they remain unheard? Because we refuse to share it to the world. Sometimes we're afraid. Sometimes we feel like, well, I'm not worthy to write the book, or who's going to listen to my message? That is one cause of being unpublished, that your message remains unheard. Then your story remains untold. If you read some biographies and some memoirs, you hear the story of people's lives and how it's affected them, but also how it actually shapes you. I told you that a book called Knowing God's Plan for Your Life changed my life. But I feel like if Kennedy Hagin never wrote that book, my life would have been changed. Not that God will not orchestrate another scenario to help me come out of the expectations that I'm looking for, but God knew that one day somebody called Fejani Taibunu will need this book, and it urged him to write that book. What if somebody one day, the answers that you're looking for, you have the answers to them? I remember Anita shared that somebody sent her a message that she almost killed herself, she almost committed suicide, and because of her book, she didn't. So what if you never wrote that book? What if you never shared that story? What if nobody ever heard the story that it meant to actually be sent to the world? There are many people that are going through a problem that you have the solution for. Is it worth not writing it? Is someone's life worth it? You not writing that book. Another hidden cost is knowledge. Well, that knowledge remains inaccessible. I'm very sure all of you have experiences. You've gone through a different course of life, and in that process, you've learned a lot of things. There are a lot of things that have happened in your life that has shaped you and also taught you what to do and what not to do. And those knowledge will never be shared if you don't write the book. Another thing is your impact. Your impact will always remain unrealized. Now you see people people messaging me, oh, I read your book, my life was changed. Or someone telling you, oh, I read your book and I learned something to help my marriage, or I learned something to help my situation. Or they're going through the same thing that you just overcame. That kind of feeling of, we're not writing the book for sales, we're writing it for purpose and for impact. Trust me, that is the most rewarding feeling any author can feel. You can ask any author here. The feeling of knowing that your book actually helped somebody is the best feeling you can ever get. It's more exciting than actually seeing sales. I'm telling you, it is. And then one of the costs is the opportunities that remains unopened. You see, for me, I learned something that has changed my life in fact, with books. And I'll be very, very quick with my story. I remember when I first came to Canada, immigrant, don't know what I'm doing. I'm an engineer, I studied engineering. I've wasted 7 years studying engineering. I worked for a firm. I was in the engineering department. I was working, I was happy, but at the same time, I didn't feel fulfilled. And I knew that God wanted more from me. So I took a bold step based off what I was being led to do. I put my job on the side and I went after what God was telling me to do. And doing that in 2023, I didn't see any progress. And I'm like, God, did you send me to do this? And 2024 was when a lot of things changed for me. I wrote my first book. God led me to write my first. I was like, God, I don't even read. How am I going to write my book? I had to do a whole class, just to learn about writing and all of that. And when I figured out and I figured out a way to write the book, I wrote my first book. But do you know what God told me when I wrote the book? He said, this book will open doors to wealth for you. And I'm there thinking, wow, my book is about to sell. I'm about to make some money. Oh, my book is about to bless people. That's what I thought God was trying to say to me in that moment, that my book is going to transform. It's going to be doing a lot of things. I'm going to make it sales. But what I didn't understand was that it was creating opportunities for me. Through that one book, I've been invited for podcasts. Through that one book, I've been invited to speak at events. And the opportunities is so much that you can't compare it, right? So the cost isn't only what you don't write. It is what never gets experienced because you didn't write that book. And I want to say something, because it's so important for us to know this, right? Because you have to understand something. Your voice is your purpose. Your story is the beginning. And I want you to stay on that for a second. Really think about that. Let it land. Your voice, your story is actually the starting point, not the book itself. And holding on to that, because becoming that person, who carries their voice, who releases their voice, that carries purpose, is the real work in front of you. I know people always say, well, I want to write the book. I want to get the book done with. I want to be an author. I'm done. People oppressing me. I'm done. People telling me what. No, I'm done with this. I'm done with that. I'm done. Just done, done, done. But that's not what I'm here to tell you today. I'm here to tell you that you need to know that your voice is your purpose, that your story matters. It matters a lot, especially in the world we live in, where people try to pull you down, try to tell you that your voice doesn't matter. It matters. It matters. I want you to put in the chat, my voice matters. My voice matters. Because I know it does. I know it does. I remember going through that process where I thought, okay, maybe my voice is not really important. Who am I to write a book? I mean, who knows me? All of these excuses that I made for myself. But I had to realize God had to work on something in me, that my voice mattered. Yes, my voice matters. Say it in you. Because you see, before you write that book, you become the person capable of writing a book. I want your identity to shift from I want to write a book to I am an author. And there's a difference here in doing this, because what this does for you is that it shifts something internally, right? Where you're no longer thinking about, okay, I have to write this physical book, but now you're focusing on the identity of being that author. You're not focusing on, I need this book out here. I need to hold the book. I need to show my friends, my family that I can be an author. No, it's I am an author. Because an author is not an execution, it's a reality. And that was the thing I had to learn writing my first book. That if I can't believe that I'm worthy to be an author, even if I write the book, I feel like my book is not deserving. It's not deserving to be out there. So what are the things then do you now focus on? You focus then on your identity, your mindset, your voice, and then you have the courage to write it and take action. That is what saying I am an author does to you. It works on that identity. It sinks in you, right? Because authorship is a decision made before the writing starts, not a title earned after publishing. It's not a title. And I want you to understand this very clearly, that you must build your identity as an author. You can't just write a book and say, well, I want to write a book. It doesn't work like that. You have to think about it. Why do I want to write this book? And why do I have to call myself an author? And the way for you to do this is through a system, a framework, actually, that I'm going to show you in a second. And one thing I learned was many publishing firms and many publishing industries that I've worked with and partnered with, tell you to write the book. But one of the things I see that they lack is the identity. So I'm gonna show you real quick what we do here at, and what exactly is the BDA framework. It's a framework that we use at the Purpose University. If you're one of our students, you've accessed our courses, you will see that this framework is something we use. So what is it? What is that? What is a BDA framework? A BDA framework is the framework that goes through is a supreme pathway for you to have a successful path as an author. So it starts from the before stage, then the after stage, then the during stage, then the after stage. Now, one of the mistakes that many people do is that they jump straight to the during. They skip the foundation, which is why so many books stall. That is why you have writer's block. That is the reason why you've been writing your book for 10 years now. That's the reason why you've been having the thought that, oh, I need to write a book. It's because you went straight to writing and you didn't focus on becoming the author. In fact, this is a proven framework that has worked on many of our students and so many other people that have taken the BDA framework with the Purpose University. But what is it exactly? The before. We're going to focus on the before because that is what this entire masterclass is about. You have to understand that don't skip the before stages, right? The one that skips this stage is the one that will never really write a book that makes an impact. So instead of you focusing on writing a book, structure, execution, consistency, completion, or even expanding that book into speaking events and websites and publishing, building impact opportunities, we're going to take you all the way back to the very beginning. The Bible says that the one that builds the foundation on the rock will not be shaken. This is that rock. This is the foundation that needs to be built. Who has ever seen a house that was built without a foundation? I've never seen a house that's been built without a foundation. So the before stage, what really is this? When we talk about the author within, or be the author, transform your life, becoming the author, what are we trying to say? You see, before the book exists, you must exist as an author. And I'm going to just quickly show you the 4 things that you need to do before you even think about writing that book, before you even think about publishing, before you even think about getting that book out there to the masses and writing your story. We're going to go through these 4 stages together, and we're going to really look at each stages and see where exactly you're at and why you've not been able to write your book. The first is identity. Now, identity is knowing who you are on the page, not just who you are in life. And I mean this because when I started writing my book, I was having this syndrome of not being worthy and being worthy. It was a 2-side thing, and I'm sure many of you here have actually gone through it. Does my voice matter? How many of you here have actually gone through that? Because I have. I have gone through that where I ask myself, does my voice matter? Who am I? Another thing I've seen in identity is the fear of being seen. I know some of you know this one, where who's going to read my book? And if people read my book, how are they going to view me? Who am I in this book? What am I writing? Is this me? Am I faking it? Is this another version of me? Is this another personality? It's not. You have to understand that you must know your identity as an author before you even write the book. Because you see, the truth is, if you don't know who you are, it's very hard for you to express yourself through your book. Your book is, I want you to think of your book as a display of you, right? So your book displays who you are. And if you can't work on yourself and your identity and what keeps you grounded as an individual, it's going to affect your writing. And yeah, you're going to see things like in identity, trauma, so many things. And I know later on, Mina is going to talk about healing and how healing actually affects writing the books. It does. But you're going to start asking yourself, who really am I? Who am I? What do I think? What do I think I have to give to this world? Who do I think I am? And this is the reason why you must know who you are, your identity and what it's based on as believers. And if you're not a believer, I'm sure you have things that you believe in. Ask yourself this question: For me as a Christian, I'll speak for myself. My identity is in Christ. And because my identity is in Christ, that's where my identity comes from. It's not grounded on my outcomes, my achievements. It's grounded on who God calls me to be. So I'm not trying to write a book because I feel like I'm the best-selling author. I'm writing a book because God has called me to share my story. Those identity, understanding that God, in fact, is a very good example of an author. I mean, he and the Holy Spirit, they wrote a whole book called the Bible, sharing stories and blueprints of history from the beginning all the way. God is the best author I've ever seen. If God is an author, then why are you not? It's a very key question we must ask ourselves. If God, my Father, lives in me, and he's an author, and he helped and spoke to various authors all over the world to write his story out there, to share his mind to the people. Why are you not writing a book? Because you don't believe that your voice matters. It's not a book issue, it's an identity issue. The next thing is clarity. I'm sure you're probably asking yourself, well, I know I want to write. No, it's not about what you want to write. It's a clear message, a message so clear that you could say it in one sentence. If I ask any of you here that want to write a book, what exactly do you want to talk about? You're going to sit there and you're going to move at me for seconds. Like, oh, I know I want to write this children's book. I know I want to write a book about what? There is no clarity on what your message is. The message you carry, you don't have it. You don't know your message. And if you don't have clarity, that is one thing you need to write a book. So people tell you, publishing firms will tell you, write the book, we'll help you structure it, we'll give you accountability. But the truth is, these are the foundational principles that need to stand first before we even think about writing the book in general. So you ask yourself this question over and over and over again. What is the message that I'm carrying? I know this one personally because when I first wrote my first book, A Woman Like Rebecca, I was a bit stoned as what really was the message of this book, really? Like, why did I even write this book? And I went ahead of myself. I wrote the book without the foundation. But when I wrote my second book, I made sure I focused on my identity because I realized that it was such a struggle for me to write the first book because this was not done. My first book was written in 90 days. The moment I figured out the identity issue, the before stage, I wrote my second book in 30 days. And the next, it kept the time kept reducing as we go. And I'm not saying you should write your book in 90 days or 60 days. Follow your pace, obviously. But what I'm trying to say is that this is a foundation that cannot be ignored. It is a pillar. I want you to see this as the 4 pillars of foundational writing. If you ever want to write your book, identity, clarity. Then the next is mindset. You have to release the doubt that has kept the book unwritten. Number 1 doubt, who's gonna read my book? Second doubt, is my book worthy to be read? Third doubt, are people gonna appreciate me? Or the fear of being seen? Oh, no one's gonna write this book. No one's gonna read it. So what's the point of writing it? Oh, nobody is gonna do this. So what's the point of writing it? I don't know about this. I'm not sure. We doubt ourselves over and over and over again. And every time you doubt yourself, I want you to imagine someone's life being affected by that decision. And the last pillar is alignment. You see, your voice, your values, and your work move as one. When before is put into place, during and after stops being a struggle. When you actually start working on the identity, executing and writing your book and expanding that book beyond becomes an easy process. And that's what brings us to where we started. And that is the whole point in identity, in clarity, in mindset, and in understanding that are you aligned? Does your voice align? Does your values align? Does your work align? It's not three separate things. It's all in one. These four pillars are what you should ask yourself. And I need you to really ask yourself, which of these four, identity, clarity, mindset, and alignment, feels least solid for you right now? I really want you to put in the chat, seriously, which of these four feels foreign to you? Which of them feels foreign to you? Is your identity solidified? Do you even know your message? How's your mindset right now? Or are you even aligned? Ask yourself these four things. Because before you write the book, you must become the author. Become. Writing isn't about just getting a paper or typing out your ideas. No. It's about you understanding that you deserve to be read. Your book deserves to be read. Your story deserves to be out there. And if that's the decision you're ready to make, here's what we go. This is what you're going to do next. And I'm very sure later on, they're going to post the link afterwards. But I want you to ask yourself, your next chapter begins within, not outward, not in 60 years' time from now. It actually starts now. And you cannot continue to sit on the very thing that will bless your life and bless others. You know, when I wrote my first book, when God told me it was going to open doors, I never knew it was going to convert to a masterclass. I never knew it was going to convert to a business. But one book opened the doors. You are a recipient of me writing my first book. I want you to imagine other people that will be transformed by you taking that step. So, me once again, Fidrani Taibunu, I want you to take that next step towards authorship. I'm done with people thinking about it. I want you to take an action today, right now on this call at this moment. Because what we want you to do is understand your identity and then execute, that then leads to a lasting change and impact. And if you're that person that is ready, then we have a free accessible guide for you. The link has been posted in the chat for you to access. I want you guys to take a step right now in this moment. And when you've done it and when you've accessed this thing, just say accessed, ready on the chat. When you've accessed it, click on the link that has been sent in the chat and download a free guide called The Author Within. I'm not asking you for your dollars. I'm asking you for your investment in your own destiny, in your future. So if you can scan the QR code, scan the QR code, but the links have been posted in the chat. Click on it right now. Take the steps right now. Take that decision right now and start finding who you are as an author. I want to say this to you, that your voice matters, but you have to become before you can write the book. It's as simple as that. As much as you want to think something else, you have to. So I'm going to give us a few moments to do that in a second before Anita gets back on. Click on the link and get a copy right now on the chat and say, I've done it. I'm taking the decision. I'm taking the step. I am doing it. It doesn't need anything from you. Just put in your information, get it sent to you. That's all. Just say you've done it. If you've done it in the chat, just say you've done it and take that step right now to becoming. It's free. You're not paying for anything. But I want you guys to, because I kept thinking to myself, I'm not here to give you information. I need you guys to implement. People every time we're always giving you information and giving you information and giving information. And then at what cost, really? What cost do you always have that? So I don't want you to, I don't want you to keep asking yourself, oh, when am I gonna do it? How am I gonna do it? You know, I don't want you to be doing that. No, I don't want you to do that. I want you to take a decision right now, a decision towards your future, a decision in this moment to become the author within. All right, I'll see you guys for more speakers. Bye.
Wow, Fejiro, thank you so much for that. I honestly believe that this is a kind of raw honesty we needed in this room. I'm sure I'm not the only one feeling this. Am I the only one feeling this? I'm so sure I'm not the only one. If you are feeling this too, or if you felt that too, I want you to put in the comment section a smiley emoji, a clock it emoji, a high five emoji, whatever emoji. Let's go ahead. Let's do that. I am not the only one. I am so sure I'm not the only one that felt that powerful presentation. Yes, I can see. Yes, love emoji, smiling emoji. Awesome. Awesome. Wow. What a powerful presentation. Wow. Now we need to move on. And I want us to, we're going to have like just 10 minutes, time to ask Fejiro some questions. So if you do have some questions, could you please put it in the comment section? I'm sure after this amazing presentation, you'll be thinking to yourself, for those who haven't written their books yet, okay, she's said so much. She talked about mindset, she talked about identity, she talked about, clarity. What else did she talk about? She talked about so many things. Now, all these questions are popping up in my head. How do I get answers to it? So please put down your questions right now. I'm just going to give you a few seconds to write down those questions. Keep it coming, keep it coming. And while we are waiting, Fejiro, let me quickly ask you, if you don't mind, just a few questions, or just one, let's say one. If there's someone in this room right now, that feels that their story is too small to become a book, right? Someone is saying, look, I do have, my stories. Yeah, I do have a story I want to turn into a book, right? But I feel that it's so small, I can't turn it into a book. What would you say to the person while we're waiting for people, dropping in their questions in the comment section, right? I want you to quickly just answer this question while we wait.
Could you ask the question again?
Yeah, what if someone there's someone here in the room, or someone who's going to watch this later and say, look, I want to write a book, but I feel like my story is too small, it's not big enough to become a book. What would you say to the person?
What made you think that way? Who are you to determine that your story is not big enough?
Okay.
That's my question to you. What happened to you that makes you feel that your voice does not matter? So if you're doubting the gravity of your voice, then you might have to actually ask yourself, what is making me feel this way? It's not a book issue now, it's an identity issue. It's more of a mindset issue. And you have to ask yourself, like, why do I feel like my voice does not matter? If God is my king and if I'm in his image, why do I feel like my voice doesn't matter? That's what I would say you should ask yourself.
Wow. And like you said, you talk about clarity and identity. So when the person is able to ask themselves this question, and I think that their own identity will become clear. And once your identity is clear, then you should ask yourself, who am I not to write that book, right?
Yes.
My voice should be out there. People need to hear my voice. I have a story to tell. I have a life to impact. Wow. Now I can see some questions in the comment section. Please, let's keep it coming. Someone is asking, how do you overcome that fear of posting your story? Fidger.
It depends on where the fear is rooted in. And after my session, someone's actually going to talk about healing, trauma, because the question is, fear is not the issue, is what is driving the fear. That's where you should pay attention to. Because how do you really fully overcome the fear of posting your story is it's not just by saying, oh, I'm afraid of posting my story, is why am I afraid of posting my story? And that is the root issue there. What is causing that fear? Were you going through stuff when you were young? Were you neglected? Were you abandoned? Did you go? There's so many things involved with that fear. So you have to target the fear not as, oh, a separate thing, but target it as this is a root issue that is affecting my identity. And I'm now mixing it with me sharing my story. Because your story is needed. Your story will bless other people. Why are you not saying, oh, why don't I share my story because it will bless other people or it will impact other people? If you look at the benefits of sharing that story, it will always it will always overcome the fear. Now, the Bible says that, He has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. But if you've based your story on fear, on the foundation of fear, then you will be driving your life with fear. But if you base it on love, on power, a sound mind, and what God has called you to do, then you can be able to overcome that fear. It's not the fear that's the issue, it's your perspective.
Wow.
So maybe ask yourself, and if you want to overcome fear, one of the practical things that made me overcome that fear, first of all, was first asking myself why I was afraid in the first place, because I have to nip the bud by the roots, not by the fruits, right? So you have to first ask yourself, is the fear a fruit or is it a root issue? And then from there, when you find out if it's a root issue, then you have to operate it. How do you operate it? Saying words that are affirmative, things that are said about you that are true. Those are the ways. So you can say affirmative words over your life, or if you're a Christian, go through the Bible. What does God say about our story? Even God said to Jeremiah, I knew you before you were born. Like, there is intentionality in your creation. So look at your identity. What is it based on? It's always an identity issue at the end of the day. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I hope that answers the question. Any more questions? While we're waiting for more questions, I want to ask, somebody might say, you know what? Identity is not my problem, right? I know who I am. But my problem is clarity. I have so many aspects of my story. I don't even know where to start, where to begin. Do I put everything in one book? Do I, write them separate books? Where do I start from? So again, identity is not my problem. I know who I am, but what do I write? There's so much that I've gone through that can, be put into a book, but I need clarity. What will you say to that person?
Clarity is not your issue. Structure is.
Okay.
That's one.
Further?
Yes, that's one question that I've gotten a lot. I don't know what to write. I know what to write, but I don't know how to. It's structure. Structure is you being able to have a system that you can follow that will give you a specific result. And that's what we do at the Purpose University.
Okay.
We do something called the Bookmaker Blueprint. That is, you find that in our courses or in our programs that we have on there. But like you're not having issues with your story, you're having issues in how to structurally place your story that it flows to a destination, right? I always say this, that your story must always focus on the problem, then not just focus on the problem, give a solution that leads to a transformation. So if you're having issues and your mind is everywhere, you need to figure out a structure. And you don't have to figure it out alone. That's why we're here to help you with that. But if you say you want to figure it out on your own, what you can do is in each question, you can go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to review each of your topics and create a better flow if you was to write a book. That would be my help to you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Now, we're going to move on. So if you still do have some questions, keep dropping them in the comment section. Our team is going to collate them. There's a panel session coming later on, and we're going to attend to each and every one of them. So don't be shy. Just put those questions right there, and we're going to collate it. Now we're going to go for we're going to pause here for just about 20
15 minutes
20
break,
minutes,
yeah.
and yeah, just go stretch, drink water, whatever you want to do. Maybe take snacks, drink a cup of coffee, tea, whatever you need to do. And we'll be back here in exactly 20 minutes. Looking forward to seeing you guys.
Bye.
I feel the spirit and I'm dancing in grace 'cause I've been forgiven. If you got ears, listen. Jesus came to set you free. He's got the keys, breaking open prisons. This ain't fiction, this is real life. The real Christ, he paid the price with his life. Don't think twice. Lord, I lift my eyes to the heavens. On you I'm dependent. My strength, my song, my blessing, the one my heart was longing for. Thank you for knocking on the door. Best decision letting you in. You didn't just clean me, you changed me within. Drugs and alcohol don't own me no more. Chains fell off, I'm free, my soul is yours. I'm vibing to your rhythm, you'll be moving my feet. I feel the spirit and I'm dancing in graces, I've been forgiven. If you got ears, listen. Jesus came to set you free. He's got the keys, breaking open prisons. This ain't fiction, this is real life. The real Christ, he paid the price with his life. Don't think twice. My steps stay sing, spirit led when I rise. No more chasing lies, got truth in my eyes. Flesh try to pull me back, that's why I keep the armor on, ready when attacks fly. I react with prayer, no snares catching me. I'm walking in unity, moving faithfully. Jesus already made the escape plan, held in his hand, vibing to his command. I turn from darkness, he cut a cord. My feet stay planted in the power of the Lord. Worship is my weapon, his word is my sword. I fight with praise, even in trials I still lift his name. I'm vibing to your rhythm, the beat moving my feet. I feel the spirit and I'm dancing in grace 'cause I've been forgiven. If you got ears, listen. Jesus came to set you free. He's got the keys, breaking open prisons. This ain't fiction, this is real life. The real Christ, he paid the price with his life. Don't think twice. Rooted in Christ, want these roots to grow deep and strong in the faith. Even when trials come, I'm called to help others along. Show him his grace, he turns weakness to song. Point to his goodness before it's too late. Time's moving fast, don't wait at the gate. He's knocking now, open the door. Let him in, be changed forevermore.
I call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemies.
For great is the Lord and greatly to be praised, and he is to be held in awe above all gods. He's the only one, number one, none before, none to come. I'm vibing to your rhythm. I'm vibing to your rhythm. To your rhythm, you'll be moving my feet. I feel the spirit and I'm dancing in grace 'cause I've been forgiven. If you got ears, listen. Jesus came to set you free. He's got the keys, breaking open prisons. This ain't fiction, this is real life. The real Christ, he paid the price with his life. Don't think twice. Lord, I lift my eyes to the heavens. On you I'm dependent. My strength, my song, my blessing, the one my heart was longing for. Thank you for knocking on the door. Best decision letting you in. You didn't just clean me, you changed me within. Drugs and alcohol don't own me no more. Chains fell off, I'm free, my soul is yours. I'm vibing to your rhythm, you'll be moving my feet. I feel the spirit and I'm dancing in graces, I've been forgiven. If you got ears, listen. Jesus came to set you free. He's got the keys, breaking open prisons. This ain't fiction, this is real life. The real Christ, he paid the price with his life. Don't think twice. My steps stay sing, spirit led when I rise. No more chasing lies, got truth in my eyes. Flesh try to pull me back, that's why I keep the armor on, ready when attacks fly. I react with prayer, no snares catching me. I'm walking in unity, moving faithfully. Jesus already made the escape plan, held in his hand, vibing to his command. I turn from darkness, he cut a cord. My feet stay planted in the power of the Lord. Worship is my weapon, his word is my sword. I fight with praise, even in trials I still lift his name. I'm vibing to your rhythm, your beat moving my feet. I feel the spirit and I'm dancing in graces I've been forgiven. If you got ears, listen. Jesus came to set you free. He's got the keys, breaking open prisons. This ain't fiction, this is real life. The real Christ, he paid the price with his life. Don't think twice. Rooted in Christ, want these roots to grow deep and strong in the faith. Even when trials come, I'm called to help others along. Show him his grace, he turns weakness to song. Point to his goodness before it's too late. Time's moving fast, don't wait at the gate. He's knocking now, open the door. Let him in, be changed forevermore.
I call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemy.
For great is the Lord and greatly to be praised, and he is to be held in awe above all gods. He's the only one, number one, none before, none to come. I'm vibing to your rhythm. I'm vibing to your rhythm. To your rhythm, you'll be moving my feet. I feel the spirit and I'm dancing in graces I've been forgiven. If you got ears, listen. Jesus came to set you free. He's got the keys, breaking open prisons. This ain't fiction, this is real life. The real Christ, he paid the price with his life. Don't think twice. Lord, I lift my eyes to the heavens. On you I'm dependent. My strength, my song, my blessing, the one my heart was longing for. Thank you for knocking on the door. Best decision letting you in. You didn't just clean me, you changed me within. Drugs and alcohol don't own me no more. Chains fell off, I'm free, my soul is yours. I'm vibing to your rhythm, you'll be moving my feet. I feel the spirit and I'm dancing in graces I've been forgiven. If you got ears, listen. Jesus came to set you free. He's got the keys, breaking open prisons. This ain't fiction, this is real life. The real Christ, he paid the price with his life. Don't think twice. My steps stay sing, spirit led when I rise. No more chasing lies, got truth in my eyes. Flesh try to pull me back, that's why I keep the armor on, ready when attacks fly. I react with prayer, no snares catching me. I'm walking in unity, moving faithfully. Jesus already made the escape plan, held in his hand, vibing to his command. I turn from darkness, he cut a cord. My feet stay planted in the power of the Lord. Worship is my weapon, his word is my sword. I fight with praise, even in trials I still lift his name. I'm vibing to your rhythm, your beat moving my feet. I feel the spirit and I'm dancing in graces I've been forgiven. If you got ears, listen. Jesus came to set you free. He's got the keys, breaking open prisons. This ain't fiction, this is real life. The real Christ, he paid the price with his life. Don't think twice. Rooted in Christ, want these roots to grow deep and strong in the faith. Even when trials come, I'm called to help others along. Show him his grace, he turns weakness to song. Point to his goodness before it's too late. Time's moving fast, don't wait at the gate. He's knocking now, open the door. Let him in, be changed forevermore.
I call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemy.
For great is the Lord and greatly to be praised, and he is to be held in awe above all gods. He's He's the only one, number one, none before, none to come. I'm vibing to your rhythm.
right, welcome back, everyone. Wow, I can feel the room shifting already. I hope you can too. And I want to say thank you for coming back right on time because this is the kind of discipline we need to not just start a book, but finish that book. Okay, now, before we move to our next segment, where I'm going to be calling our next speakers, I want to say that most times a book is not written, is not because we don't have the time to write the book or we don't have the skill to write the book, but it's because of a story we've not even healed from. How do you write a book when you're still hurting? How do you write a book when you are not yet healed? How do you put that story into a book if you are not yet healed? And that is why we're going to be going to our next segment. And I'm going to be calling someone, permit me to read her permit me to read her biography. Just give me a minute to pull it up, and okay, here we are. Now, our next speaker holds space for exactly that. I talked about the reason why you are not writing that book. It's not because you don't have the time or you don't have the skill, but because you are not yet healed right deep down here. So our next speaker holds space for exactly that. She is a food strategist. She's the founder of F&M and a co-founder of Two Sides of a Coin, a serial entrepreneur and an author whose passion for the gospel of Jesus Christ, radiates through every single thing she does. She's devoted to guiding others towards healing and wholeness, helping authors write from a place that is whole, not wounded, a healed place. So put your hands together or put in the comment section an emoji of high five, smile, or welcome to our Mine Ebono. Mine, over to you.
Hi guys, I'm so honored to actually be here today. It's a privilege to speak to you guys and just share like what my experience has been and how you can actually move on. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about healing, mindset, and voice activation. Like what Anita, thank you for the introduction. Most times people it's not because they can't write the book. It's not because they're too tired or they don't know what they're doing. Most times it's because they have not fully healed from what has happened to them. And that way they can't even talk about the book. How can you write something when you've not sorted it out yourself personally? So I'm going to be talking about we're going to go from what happened to you to what you have to say. Right. What if the very thing you are trying to hide is the very thing someone needs to hear? Most times we don't see our experiences as things that people need to learn from. Most times we move through life thinking, oh, what happened to me is in the past. I'm not even going to talk about it. I've moved on. But deep down, if we actually ask ourselves the honest question, have we really healed from what happened to us? We've come to realize that no, we've actually not. We've just been moving on with life, going about life one way, just going with the flow, and not actually asking ourselves the true, honest questions. We often hide the chapters that hurt us, because why bring it up when I can just shove it deep down and then move on with my life and never talk about it again? We become ashamed of experiences that, frankly, we didn't choose to happen to us. whether we're the victim of a situation, we just move on and like, oh, I'm so ashamed. This happened to me. I can't even talk about it. Let's just leave it in the past. And if not all the time, we allow our past to influence what we believe we're capable of. We allow our past to influence everything. People often say, oh, just leave your past. Your past does not determine your future. I have a different saying. If you don't address your past, it can begin to shape how your future is going to become. That is who you're becoming and who you will become. Because our experiences can become and is the foundation of our voice. Everything we do in life flows from all the experiences that we've had, because it flows from a place of mindset. And mindset is made up of experience, perspective, and experience, perspective, and so that's what makes up our mindset. So we go about life moving through things that we never actually stop to actually question. Now, one thing I've come to realize is every experience, our life is like a book per se. Every experience, every stage in our life is just a chapter we're marking down throughout the story of our lives. Every challenge you experience carries a lesson. Every season shapes your perspective, and every experience can contribute to who you become. Now, where people get it wrong is they decide that they want to erase the chapter instead of understanding what it taught them. The framework that I have begun to move my life around is, what was the experience? What was the lesson I got from the experience? What wisdom can I take from that experience that I went through? And how can I bring out my voice? Then move on to making a lasting impact. Life, if we honestly look at our lives, we see that every experience, there's something to learn from it, be it good, be it bad. There's either a positive lesson or a negative lesson to learn from every experience in our life. And it's then we use wisdom to filter it and say, okay, so this is what happened in my life. How can I then acknowledge what was the good, what was the bad? And being that I'm pretty sure we're all children of God, I stumbled upon this video and the person was saying, how can we actually filter the lessons in our lives? Because most times we fit it into only one box of the trauma, the past. We fit it into one box and say, that's the end of it. But there are actually three boxes you need to fit it into. First is the box of, okay, this is what happened to you, and that's that. The second box is when you filter it through the word standards, like, okay, this is wrong, this is right. But the third most important box is when we filter it through Christ. When we say, okay, what does Jesus say about this? What does he say about that? That's when we begin to understand truly what happened and what is going on in our lives. Because if we don't address the past, we can never become who we're supposed to be in the future. Now, I want you to give yourself permission to become. Because before you can even step into your voice, before you can think about being an author, you have to give yourself permission to outgrow the version of yourself that you and other people remember. Because if you keep holding on to the parts of you that said, I can never amount to anything, I cannot be an author, it's too hard, yeah, I'll leave it for the pros to do it, you can never fully step into that role of authorship. And the most important thing is leaving the box that people placed you in. When we start to understand that most people go through life with their own experiences and their own perspectives, and that's what they use to frame their whole life, you can then begin to actually forgive others and actually analyze what people do, because people will often want to place you in a box because of their own perspectives, their own flawed perspectives. They will often try to place you in a box and try to put a cap onto what you can become. They will put a cap on, oh, you can never amount to anything. You're just you. You want to write a book? What's wrong with you? So they will place you in a box that you become too comfortable in, that you don't want to step out of. And you have to forgive yourself for what you didn't know. Because we can say healing is what happened to us, but you also have to understand that we also, as human beings, we have had relationships and experiences with other people that we have hurt them. And when you understand that this is what happened, oh, I have to forgive myself for what happened to me. I have to forgive myself for what I did to those people. I have to forgive myself to fully understand that, oh yeah, this is what happened. I can leave this, take the positive, and then move on to better things in my life. And then you also have to give yourself permission and stop allowing your past to define your future in a negative pattern. Because if you actually stop to analyze your past, analyze what has happened to you, that is only when you can actually take the positive experiences and then the positive lessons and then use it to fuel your future. I always say you cannot become your next version while constantly holding yourself hostage to your previous one. Because if you keep holding yourself hostage, how can you ever fully become? And this is when people say healing, people often think healing is, oh yeah, I say, oh, it happened and that's it. No, healing is a process. Healing is something that we have to consciously make the decision to undertake. Because before you can even heal, first you have to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge what happened to you. Because if you don't acknowledge that you were hurt, you can never heal. Because you can never heal from what you don't know you need to heal from. And then when you move on from healing, you go into the stage of processing. You process, like I said before, the processing of the filters of, is this what I'm supposed to take? Is this what I'm not supposed to take? And the best person that can even help you through this process is God. Because he also even ties in my own personal journey, which I will talk about later, in my own personal journey of how I even went through this process. And then you have to forgive, whether it be because forgiveness is a gift that you can give to yourself. People that always say, I will never forgive you, look at how their life is. They're either in pain, they can't fully step into what they're supposed to step into because they can't fully trust anyone. But forgiveness is a gift that you can give to yourself, not letting anyone define what you're going to be if you choose not to forgive. So you have to choose to forgive. And then you have to accept, it happened. I will move on from it. It happened. Most people get to this stage and they just give up. They don't want to accept what happened. They want to always find the reason, oh yeah, pointing fingers, this person did this, that's why I'm like this. No, you have to accept it happened. But when you can come into the full circle of healing is when you now release it. When you choose to release what happened to you. You choose to release it and say, this happened, but I'm not going to repeat this cycle. I'm not going to do the same thing to someone, because when you don't heal, mind you, you're going to do the exact same thing that someone did to you to another person. And that person, if that person chooses not to heal, the person goes on to complete that. You see, now is a whole cycle of what's happening, what's not happening. And that's why everyone is hurting people, and people are just being not at the best stage in their lives. And healing is not forgetting what happened. It's refusing to let what happened have the final word in your life. And most especially, you don't heal only for yourself. You heal for your future. You heal for your relationships. You heal for your family. You heal for the future generations that will come after you. You heal for your purpose, and you heal for the people that your story may eventually help. healing is not just for you. When you start focusing on healing, like, oh, I'm just healing for myself, that's it. No. Healing, because when you heal, a new version of yourself is birthed forth. And it's from that version that you can actually fully understand yourself and actually step into the author that you were meant to be. Now, this is how we turn wounds to wisdom. When I say the experience lessons wisdom is not an automatic process. When you go from the experience and then you reflect, like I said, in the 3 boxes, actually reflecting, is this what I'm supposed to learn from this? What is the negative? What is the positive? It's just like, I will even give an example. When I was learning to cook, before I even found my purpose in food, when I was learning to cook, I learned under destructive criticism. So instead of and if you don't know what destructive criticism, it's when people, they don't acknowledge the problem, but they tear down the person instead of the problem. So for years, I carried that like, oh, they said I was not good. So I was constantly blaming myself. But when I stopped to realize that I was actually getting better at cooking, and that's when I reflected, I like, oh, although the process in which I was learning was not the best environment, but look at what I have learned so far. I have learned about food in a way that I never knew I had learned about. And then I had to heal and accept that the people that were teaching me were flawed. I can't blame them. They were obviously, it's also from their own past experiences in which they teach. They don't understand that they also have not healed. So I can't keep blaming people that have not healed. I have to take ownership of my own life and realize I had to heal. And then I took the lessons. I learned, okay, this is what they were saying. This is not what they were saying. And then that's when I created. And your creation is not just something you can diminish. It starts from a book, and then you can go into a business. It's a message, it's art, it's a movement. And like that, you have a whole legacy. When we say creating is something that you have to, it's a gift that you can give yourself today. Now, when I was writing my story, when the idea came to write my book, I struggled with it because I never saw myself as an author. And when my mentor, when she wrote a first book, I was like, oh, I was just like joking, like, oh, I'm going to write a book someday. But it was never a serious, I never took it as something serious because I never saw myself as an author. Because I always thought, who's gonna listen to what I have to say? Who's gonna learn from me? Like, my story has not been the greatest. Frankly, it's horrible. So there's no need. I would just shove it in the past, build a wall in my mind, and then I move on. But when I came to Christ, he broke down that understanding and explained to me, like, you keep saying you want to leave the past in the past, but look at everything you're doing. Everything you're doing in life is flowing from the past hurt. And by the time I actually thought about writing this book, I was already on my healing journey. I'd already started it. I've already started dropping some knowledge, understanding, oh, this is what happened. But I still wasn't fully there. Because when the idea came to me, I had like the breakdown of what I wanted to write. But I was so scared to actually start because I kept thinking to myself, am I worthy to be an author? Is this something that I actually think I can do? But when I started writing the book, it's as if part of me started healing. I can't explain it, but part of me started healing. There are some parts that there are some things that went in my life that I did not even know I needed to release. Old habits, the way personalities, the way I viewed life, I didn't understand. These were things that were framed by trauma. And I've been living my whole life based off trauma. I've not actually stopped to actually question how I'm living. And I had to accept parts of my story. I had to accept it happened. There's nothing you can do. It's already happened. The best thing I can do for myself is heal. And discovering, while writing this book, it helped me discover a lot of myself that I didn't even know that was there. And I started moving from healing towards restoration and towards wholeness. And by the time I was even done writing the book, I had already stepped into the identity of an author. Because stepping into that identity, it is not a small job. It can be like a very scary step when you're wondering, oh, who's going to buy the book? Oh my God, what's going to happen? That's not the most important thing now. You're contemplating the future instead of you to focus on the present, which is you. You have to heal before you can even write a story. And I didn't write my story because everything was perfect. I wrote it because everything I had experienced, I realized that I had experienced so much transformation that the journey mattered to someone. Even to me, like, because the first time I was reading the book, I kind of became whole while reading it. Like, just thinking, look at where I started and look at where I am now. Seeing that growth, it inspired me to even continue to even push more and try to get more out of life. And when I say your story doesn't have to be a memoir. When we tell authors, write a book, most people think I'm writing a book just about the story of my life, or I'm writing a self-help. No. When you actually realize that your book reflects into everything you do, be it you're writing a children's book, be it you're writing poetry, fiction, business, so you're doing screenwriting, you're writing a self-help book, everything flows from your experiences. Every chapter of the book, whether it be fiction, your life is written in the pages, because you can only write what you know, because the experiences that you've gone through, when you actually realize that your life is a creative library, your life the experiences you've been through is enough to tell a whole story. You can write a children's book about something you learned the right way of doing things instead of the wrong way, in which the way you grew up or something like that. You can actually start helping people to understand, this is not the best way to do this. Why don't we try it this way? And you have to activate your voice, because what holds a lot of authors back is, would the world listen to it? My story is not that important. I'm not ready. What will people think if they read my story? And I struggled with all these things, these old narratives. I struggled with it a lot, because I asked myself, what would people think? Like, my whole story now is on a piece of paper that I can never take back. What would people start thinking if they actually knew what I had been through, especially even before I came to Christ? How would people see me? How will my church view me? How will my friends view me? It is something that we all battle with, those questions, those deep questions, asking ourselves, what am I even saying? My story is just a small cog in the infinitesimal events of life. Like, it's not as important as, let's say, someone influential. If they write a book, people understand why they write a book, but we see ourselves so little. We tend to belittle ourselves. We tend to reduce the impact of our voice and reduce it and say, oh, it's not that important. But your voice is the one thing that you need to rise up, and you need to start speaking and impacting people. And impact starts from your sphere of influence. Impact doesn't have to be that you're on the world stage and interviewing people. Impact starts from your friends, your family, your colleagues. That's where impact starts from. So now we need to stop viewing everything from, instead of saying, who would listen to me, think someone may need to hear this. Someone's life can be transformed if they actually hear this, because we also have to think that everything we've gone through, somebody else is going through it. So what I've been through, somebody else might be in the stage, let's say stage 2, I'm at stage 5, somebody's at stage 2, they don't know what they're doing. But writing my story will help that person understand and save that person the mistakes I made. Instead of them making the same mistakes I made, now they look at things different, understand the big picture, and actually move in a different direction. And instead of us saying my voice isn't important, we stop and say my experience has meaning. It happened. My story has meaning. It's going to impact someone. I don't know, it might even be for one person, but I'm going to impact someone. When we say I'm not ready, that's the excuse most people give. Instead, think I can begin where I am. Where I am right now, I can start from there. And eventually, I will grow into so much more. And instead of saying, what would people think? We have to start realizing that we cannot let fear decide our purpose at all. Because fear is a destruction of purpose. Fear keeps you locked while you're supposed to be so much more. Fear keeps you in a box. Everyone is finding a way out of their own boxes, but because of fear, you lock yourself in the box purposefully so that you won't be able to even impact anyone. Now, this is like a question, like a guide for like the audience. It's like some questions that we need to actually ask ourselves. And like, if you have a minute, you can write it down, or I can paste it in the chat. Is to take a moment, write down what experience that changed me, the lessons I learned from it, what I had to unlearn, the things I need to forgive myself for, and one thing I know now that I didn't know before, and who could benefit from what I've learned. So when you ask yourselves this question, I think it will help to even activate your voice as an author to actually understand why you're an author and who you can become and what you can achieve from being an author. Now, your story is not the end of what happened to you. It may be the beginning of what happens because of you. So when we realize that life is not just only us or we're just moving around, we start to realize that we have a voice, we have a story, and we have something to say. Thank you guys, and I hope this impacted you and helped you guys today.
Well, thank you so much for that amazing presentation, Mine. I feel like you've given the room, the tenderness that it needs. And right now, I'm feeling so many things right now. So many things going to my head. And I'm like, wow. So I've written a lot of things down that I believe that is going to help me through my journey in the next book that I'm going to write. Now, for anybody who is in this, masterclass, if you're paying attention, you will understand that the last 3 speakers kept mentioning one word. There's one specific word that kept popping up. If you know what it is, can you put it right in the comment section? Let's see how many people are paying attention. Just one specific word. There's so much they've said, but there's just one word that it feels like this is the anchor. This is like the foundation. Come on, let's say it. Some people say God. Okay, who else? Who else? That's not exactly what I'm looking for. Who else? Just one word. One word. Identity. We're getting there, but we're not exactly there. Who else? Who else want to try? Just one more person. Healing. Okay, now you guys are right, but for me, there's one thing I noticed that kept popping up, and it's mindset. It all starts in your mind. Mindset. The first speaker mentioned it, the second speaker mentioned it, and then the third speaker also mentioned it. Mindset. It all starts right here first. And that's why the founder said identity. It all boils down to mindset. What do I think about myself before I even begin to write this book? What am I thinking? What's in my head? How do I deal with what I'm thinking? How do I handle it? And all mindset, very, very important. You need to deal with your mindset before you build a legacy, because writing a book is actually building a legacy that would outlive you long after you're gone. Your book will still be there, transforming generations and lives, that are not yet born. So thank you again, Mina, for that amazing presentation. And we're going to go right ahead to ask Mina some questions. Okay, let's give that just about 10 minutes. So if you have questions, please put it in the comment section. If there's anything you would like to ask Mina, please put it right there in the comment section. Mina, before I start getting the questions from the audience, I want to ask you one specific question, if you don't mind. People might say, I hear you guys, I hear you. The first speaker say, turn your story into a book, your experience into a book, and yes, I hear you guys, and I'm ready and willing to write this book. But I need help. I feel like I can't do this book. I can't write this book by myself. I can't do this thing by myself. I'm willing and I'm ready. And I want to put my story out there. I want to tell the world my story. I want to transform life. I want to do all that, but I need help. Can you give such a person answer to that question? Like, what kind of help would you give the person? This person said, I need help. How would you help the person? Maybe the person, cannot write the book by themselves. And I hear that there's some people called ghostwriters. Maybe you can start there. But what can you do for that person? What help can you render to that person? Mine, if you could quickly answer while we wait for other questions.
First of all, even when I was writing my book, the best tool, like this is not even, the best tool you can use is use the Purpose University. I tell you, your life will not remain the same if you actually use, because I had to use the program, the Bookmaker, to actually understand. First, I did the SD, then I did U, to actually understand what it meant to actually be an author. Because we can't ask for the book if we don't first sort out the foundation, which is the identity, the mindset of that person. Because before you can even write a chapter in your book, you first need to understand why you're writing the book. What do you hope to achieve with the book? So like even in my book, I put some questions, because I think the Purpose University, when you even write in the book, there's some questions that you're asked to help you get the idea rolling. And once I used the Bookmaker, it went from such a far concept to something achievable, because I was thinking about the book in the long term, like, oh, it's so hard to do. Where am I going to start from? But when I actually answered the question and I figured out the goal of the book, what I'm supposed to do with the book, everything else just flowed easily from that. So you can actually book a consultation right now with the Purpose University to just even understand where you are in your journey of becoming an author. And that will help you to actually know, oh, am I someone that actually want to write a book? Do I want to use a ghostwriter? What is the purpose of the book? Because whether you like to know, everything stems down to what is the goal of the book? And that will help you. That can only be asked when you actually stop to ask yourself some certain questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mina. Wow. Okay. Now we've done the inner work, and I need us to get practical. If you still have a question, please keep writing down your question in the comment section. Keep writing down your question in the comment section, and we are going to handle it. And if you check the comment section, you will see a link has been posted there where you can book a free consultation. So please go ahead and do that right now. Now, this is where we get practical, and I'm just going to, invite our next speaker. Okay, so permit me to read the bio of our speaker. His name is Christopher. Oh, I hope I get this right. Connie Zek. Please forgive me if I didn't get your pronunciation right. Okay.
Quite all right. Yeah, not a problem at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for bailing me out there. Now, he is a publishing consultant with the Friesen Press, I guess. Yeah. Did I get that right too?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So now he joined that team of employee owners in 2013, reconnecting with his passion for literature after a career in the culinary arts, and in over a decade in the trade, he's helped bring more than 2,000. Did you hear that? 2,000 titles to market. Wow. Now, Friesen Press is the world's only 100% employee-owned publishing services. Wow, 100%, not 99%, not 98%, but 100% employee-owned publishing services provider, part of Canada's largest independent book printers, and has helped thousands of authors publish over, listen, 8,000 titles, not 800, but 8,000 titles. Please join me in welcoming Christopher.
Patty, all.
Christopher,
It's great
over
to join
to
you this morning, or I suppose this afternoon, as it would be in your time zone. I'm joining you from sunny Vancouver Island, and yeah, it's a beautiful day. Just got back from a dog walk, and my reading partner and my pup Marshall is right next to me. I'll talk a little bit about reading partners as well as part of the kind of presentation, but I think that finding a cozy space is often one of the first things that I recommend for writers, not only to write, but also to read. If you can find, a Zen spot to get into the zone, it helps with a lot of breaking through things like reading and writing blocks and such. But with that said, thank you so much for having me on, Anita and team. I've been with the company for over 13 years, and I've worked on a ton of books. So if you're working on something and you have a question, if I don't have the answer, I probably know someone who does. So definitely don't be shy to pop those questions and comments in the chat. And then we'll have a question and answer period towards the end that I can hope to address all of those for you. We also have today a giveaway for a free editor's manuscript evaluation. This is sort of like an X-ray for your book, where if you've got a manuscript or even part of a manuscript, if you put your name kind of in the registration, then you'll be in the draw to potentially get a free review of your book by an editor. And that's really important because it's going to give you a sense of where you're headed, and if your book is complete or if it's commercial, and a host of different considerations that will move you along in that pathway towards being confident in your literature and potentially moving forward with a confirmed direction, right? Whether you're doing a book for yourself and your friends, or if this is commercial, to what extent you want to go into that with things like editing and marketing. So there's a whole host of different analysis that does. So if you're curious, and if you have a book that's maybe most of the way finished, or let's say 60% finished or more, then that would be a really good thing for you to check out, just in sense that it could be something that moves your process along and gets you across the finish line. Over 70% of people who start writing never finish. It's a brutal statistic, and it's not one that is particularly favorable in the odds for most writers. But this is because, like any kind of artistic endeavor, whether it's like blowing glass or picking up a musical instrument, people might not stick with it or stay consistent, and life gets in the way. So we'll talk a little bit about all that as well, and how to break down those barriers and ensure that your writing time can be as productive as possible, whilst also being as fulfilling as possible, which are often kind of at two awkward ends of that spectrum. So with that said, I'm going to jump into the presentation, but if you guys do have any questions that pop up, just fire those into the chat, and I'll do my best to check those out and make sure that we get an answer for you a little later. So just going to share my screen. Let's see here. Okay. There we go. That's me. Okay. So thinking like a published author. This is advice for modern writers. That's me. That's my little library nook here downstairs. So on the agenda today, we'll be talking about developing a writing routine and what that actually means in practice, as well as why writing goals often fail. Much like with fitness goals and things like that, it's aim big, shoot for the stars. And sometimes people make it, but incremental little bits is often the best way to go. Overcoming common writing obstacles and staying motivated for the long haul. And lastly, that Q&A period we talked about. So the staying motivated in long haul is really something that I emphasize, in my own practice in writing, but also, as a literary agent when I was working in that field, because there's a lot of people who have incredible talent and stories to tell, but they get burned out. And it's hard to get back on the horse once you feel you're not really enjoying the writing anymore. And so there's often going to be a point where people just sort of derail the project that they're working on and either start working on something else or whatever. And that's not actually the worst thing. I'll talk a little bit about how, a project derailment can actually be very beneficial for you and how to kind of re-up on that. So developing a writing routine is, I think, quite a cerebral process because you're really putting a lot of thought into my time application and the day, the hours, the minutes that you have in between, cooking your meal prep or laundry or walking the dog and all that stuff. So life is this huge block that's in front of you that you kind of have to work around. And the way that I often describe that is imagine you are the river and life is the rock. You have to flow around the rock. The river is adaptive. And so it is with that fluidity that if you don't create regular times and intervals, then you might not be consistent with your writing and it might be drips and drabs here and there. And so one of the most important things you can do is create that sense of routine. Just like if you were going to go to a yoga class or if you were going to, do some weekly baking or something like that, the structure and the daily routine, as it were, or weekly, is going to be really important to have on your calendar, somewhere visible for you and somewhere that has a reminder. For my writing, I often use things like Alexa, to kind of pop a reminder, while I'm, buzzing around in the kitchen or whatever, have you done any writing this week? And then it's just a passive reminder that happens that will get me back to thinking about my book or thinking about something along with writing. If you have those opportunities to create reminders for yourself, this is a great way to install kind of a accountability track, right? It's not even necessarily conscious for you because something else is doing it, but that is one of the most important things you can create is an accountability track to ensure that you're staying engaged in the thinking of writing, if not necessarily the act. The other thing is to define your priorities, knowing why. If this is a book that you want to publish to start your writing career, that's not going to start that writing career until you're finished your book and then you can get it published. And so setting that goal and that motivation, if you have a favorite author, read up on their trajectory. Like, what did they do? What humble origins did they come from? And what was their entry into the industry as we know it? So when you define your priority as, I want to be a published author and I want to get into bookstores, that is something that you can write down and create almost sort of like a mantra on your desk. You can create a crafty little thing or just a sticky note, but if you put it next to you somewhere, that will be a conscious reminder of your goal setting, and it's something that becomes more concrete. So much like with the Alexa reminder of reminding you to write, it's also the reminding and inspiring of the why, because behind every creative talent, behind every author is the million reasons that you don't do it. And this is true for things like personal fitness, but I think that artistic endeavors are unique in that there's so many distractions in life. And so if you don't keep your eye on the prize, in this case, that goal that you set for yourself, it kind of slides into the background and can be easily replaced by some other thing that comes up. So keep that goal, if you can, front and center visibly. If you have a painting or have a friend who's crafty, you can get like a little thing on your desk, like a sculpture or a picture with maybe a cute little drawing or image that says, "You've got this, keep writing," or something like that. And that way, it's just going to keep you in that headspace. You look at it all the time. And even if you wince and you think, you know what, I haven't written it, it will keep it in your mind, which is so important for, consistency. And also noting that everybody's style is different. A lot of the advice that I tend to give is contextual or, case specific, because what one author benefits from in terms of their creative process might be very different. And so knowing where your strengths as an author and writer come from can be difficult to identify and often comes from working with people like book coaches. Um, those are the kind of folks that have a lot of training and knowledge, like folks in this group, for example, that will be able to provide an advisory on your best practices and also to keep consistent. Outside of coaching, I think that it's about also then creating a structure that works for the individual. When you are coming from a technical background, like an engineer or somebody who's very intricate with planning, project management, for example, those roles often have folks that are very procedurally motivated. And so you would have something that might be very helpful, like a very in-depth book plan, similar to like a recipe or an architectural blueprint, where you've planned out in meticulous order and detail how everything flows. And that can be as big a document as you want, or it can be something very concise, which most people do on a whiteboard. And so the whiteboard is something that I generally recommend for everybody because project planning is a highly visual thing in the arts. But particularly if you are a meticulous planner, or if you like ordered hierarchy in your workflow, like in your job or your day-to-day, then having a book plan document takes that a step further. Because similar to following that recipe, you've got chapter 1, I want this to happen, and then this breaks, and then we've got these scenes that all lead to this character's moment. And so you've got a kind of a plan going into your writing session. And the success story is when opportunity and preparation meet, right? If you're prepared and you have that mindset going into your writing session, you're likely then to complete that writing session in some way successfully. But if you just sit down and write, that can also work for certain types of writers that are just very stream of consciousness or flow. I tend to be in the latter category myself, where I just sit down and start writing. And I do have a frame of reference for what I want to do, but often it's very emergent, right? So note that it doesn't have to be super hyper organized, but it can help, even in a little bit, to keep you on track. So why writing goals fail? This is, the rough statistic that I talked about. Many people aim high, and it's important to be okay with a little bit of failure, because that's part of writing. It's part of arts. It's part of life. But in particular, my first book that I was working on, I abandoned it after about a year. It was mostly finished. It was a science fiction novel. And I just looked back at it, and I had done a lot of personal growth in the in-between time. And I looked at it and was like, you know what, this isn't really me. This is more of like a growth opportunity or experiment. And it's okay to be working on something that doesn't have necessarily the end goal of being a big deal, right? It's okay to do just little things, and they can be private for yourself, or you can share them with your friends. But when you have in the outset the idea that you want this to be, a big thing or a long-term endeavor where you're creating a sprawling franchise where there's books 1 through 6 kind of idea, but don't bite off more than you can chew, because small incremental steps are the way to complete these things. If you make the big too goal and too vast, right? I want to see my name in neon lights. I want to get a major motion film made, of my book and my characters. that's grandiose. It's amazing to have that ambition, but it starts from good first principles. So I think that if you start out with, I'm going to make a good chapter one, and then once I've done a good chapter one and I have my head on with what the characters have done and what the narrative has established, let's look at chapter two and so on. And that way you can keep it kind of in tight little blocks. The smaller you break it down, often the easier it is to manage and the less pressure it is on yourself, right? Because so many people I work with are starting out with big vision and they get sort of like distracted, like squirrel, squirrel, right? And they want to do this and they want to do that. And they want to have this huge, moment in this chapter. And then they go back and they start revising this one because this event changed the chapter in the past one. And so it ends up being almost like a vortex, right? If you kind of keep going back and forth to different stages. So even though it might not be perfect, if you get chapter one and chapter two and chapter three done, leave those as the imperfect things that they are, because then as you go through and you finish the book in the way that you can, good enough is great. Good enough is the enemy, or sorry, perfection is the enemy of good enough, right? Like you're not going to be able to create a masterpiece or a magnum opus out the gates. It will take some iteration, but so many people get stuck in revision vortex, right? The sort of swirl of it's not good enough. I'm going to keep going back and rewriting this section and so forth. And that can happen for quite literally years in some cases. So that's why I think this sort of next section is potentially very valuable for authors who are new or establishing their sort of process, their credentials, their career, and their mindset. So how to set better goals? Well-defined goals give you clarity and direction, of course. So instead of write more, as some have opined, if you have a very particular schedule, like Alexa, remind me to write once a day or twice a week at this time for an hour, right? And it can be that focused time that you've dedicated where you can say, I want to write 500 words. But realistically, 500 words is actually not a lot. When you give yourself over to the creative process, you truly can do amazing things. Like I wrote 30,000 words in a weekend, and it wasn't even like a ton of a weekend. It was just, there you go. So you can give yourself over to the creative process. And that's why I think stream of consciousness can work really well for authors who are engaged in that sort of state of neuroplasticity. It's a state and a fancy term for your mind is open and receptive to your creative processes. You're unfettered. You're not held back by doubt or insecurity. You're just going for it, machine gun, write it. And if you do that, rather than say the 500 words per day, you will find yourself quickly being far more productive because the words is an arbitrary boundary. Whereas the time, you can definitely write less. That's okay. But you can also champion yourself to write more. And I think that giving yourself over to the artistic process is really the difference between when authors hit that quote unquote flow state, right? Where you're just zooming. And those that are kind of rigid locked into, I've done my 500 words for the day. Okay, on to the next thing. Because, 500 words can take just a little bit, or it can take a month, depending on how much research goes into it. But if you are receptive to that creative process and engaged in just sort of letting yourself be in the moment, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can always erase it later, but just fire at it and see what you come up with. The other thing then is for specific goals, removing guesswork, like we talked about. I think having that kind of architectural blueprint is helpful, right, for most authors. The overarching thing that most people that I work with who are kind of successful on the execution of their book are working with things like a whiteboard, right? If you're working today on your book, you've got your Alexa ping, you're sat down, you're ready to write. Well, you get your whiteboard. What am I doing today? What's the action plan? I want to do this with this character And then after this scene, I want to do maybe 2 or 3 more scenes today. And that'll get me to maybe the closer to the end of this chapter. And so you have like a lesson plan for you for the day. And it doesn't have to be overly elaborate. I think that this is one of those things that can be overcomplicated, but just kind of a mission statement of the day. You sit down with your writing, space, mind clear, and you've got a rough idea. Okay, what am I working on? Let's say I want to talk about my family's, exodus from Nigeria and their experience in immigration to Canada, or what have you, right? And so those are books that I've worked on, and with people who have gone through the process of just spilling their guts incrementally, one little whiteboard at a time, and it works really well. It'll get you finished. So measurable benchmarks that you can actually track. One thing you can also do is create like a writing journal. I like to do this in Google Docs. I think a lot of what Google Docs has is structurally very useful for new authors, because you've got, different kinds of documents that you can just create there. And, if you're not carrying your computer with you and you're out at a bus stop or, out doing an event, maybe something pops into your mind. Well, you can log into your Google Doc and then you can quickly note that down. I want my character to look like this person that I saw because they had a really cool jacket and there was just something very aura about that person that I want to translate into this book. And so you can quickly then go on your smartphone and you can type down the details that you might need to want to update on the Google Doc. It's safe and secure, but you can also take that with you wherever you go. So even if you're not close to your writing corner or your dedicated space, you're able to access it and on the fly move forward with these little pieces that you can add. So that's where the benchmark of tracking comes in handy, is that like you can also have that Google Doc that says, I worked on these chapters this month, and 2 months later, I was only working on one chapter. So obviously there's a bit of a dip in productivity and motivation. And then you can look into articles or, YouTube videos on, finding Zen in your writing, for example. And you can kind of recapture some of that magic that you might have lost in chapter 1 and 2 to get back into that. So that's something that will allow you to see the ebb and flow of your enthusiasm for writing. And this is the same with, going to the gym, right? A lot of people, they track their engagement to see kind of how they are progressing. A spreadsheet or tracking app like this is pretty typical. And like I mentioned, small increments, it doesn't have to be a lot for you to be productive. But, when you allow yourself to fly at her, right? As I said, you get a sense that it's not just about creating the words. I have to do 500 words. It's how much of this narrative piece do I want to commit to today? Can I actually get this done? If I can't, maybe I'll just leave it half finished and I'll come back and ponder a bit more. But it does get you to a point where you've got those little bite-sized pieces. And rather than biting off more than you can chew, to follow the analogy, if you keep consistent with the small goals, that's where, people like powerlifters and, professional athletes, they are at their best because they're always looking at those little bite-sized things they can do to improve. So achievable. An unrealistic goal only causes frustration and burnout. When we get overly ambitious, as I have done in the past with my own writing, there's been times where I've participated in NaNoWriMo, which is like an annual writing competition. And that's really fun. And I think everybody who is interested in writing should do it. It costs you nothing. And it's just sort of like a challenge to yourself in November to just bash out a book if you can, or get as far as you are able to. That can, of course, have some drawbacks like frustration, right? Burnout. Those are things that happen when you are not able to fill your cup, right? You're not able to take the requisite breaks or feel further inspired. So measuring that, right, as I want to do the chapter this weekend. And if you don't do the chapter this weekend, how far did you get? Okay. And if you are far behind your goals, you can kind of do a reset and say, okay, well, that hasn't worked yet, but it can continue despite whatever setbacks I have, because I still need to tell this story. So let's revise the timeline. And if you give yourself grace with this timeline, right, it can quickly expand to years. So you want to be careful to keep yourself honest, keep yourself productive, but without overcommitting to the amount of work you're doing. So that's where, your own personal compass is going to come in handy, because if you legitimately have an hour every Tuesday and Thursday in the evening after the kids go to sleep or whatever to write, try your best to follow that, because if you stay consistent with it, it gets done, of course. And if you have life happen, that is inevitable. But keeping the reminders and the focus on the achievable incremental bits is, really important, which is, talking about breaking down these larger goals. A goal is only worthwhile if you can follow through with it. So sometimes, I would get after myself to finish like a particular chapter on the geography of a particular part of this fantasy world that I was working on, because I was wanting to build like almost a reference book, both for myself and potentially for, readers down the road, to see kind of how the world works in its structure. It's very detailed and meticulous, right? However, it became a quagmire for me quickly because it was really big. There was a lot of detail that I needed to consider and research. And so rather than kind of fixating on the whole of that geography, I began actually to approach it from each nation or each region. And that allowed me to just take on a little bit less mental load, because in sort of writing or any kind of technical area of productivity, mental load is a big concept. How much space is it taking in your brain? How much bandwidth or brain power essentially are you using to do that activity? And will you give yourself a headache if you're thinking about too many things at once? For myself, I can recommend, from my experiences in working with others, that the smaller bite-sized stuff adds up. And if you keep consistent with that, then you're going to finish your book. Of course, it's easy to beat yourself up, but we'll get to that. So relevant. Goals should reflect your priorities. This one is, I think, fairly straightforward in, tying back to the whiteboard, right? And or your book plan. If you haven't already done a book plan, this, even for people who are not like hyper organizers, is helpful because it gives you a reference point. What do you want in your book, and what are the priorities of achieving that? Do you want to have this book finished and ready for submission before the end of the year? Great. That's an ambitious goal. That's going to take a lot of bandwidth and time to invest in. So being careful not to overcommit yourself is an act of personal self-reflection that can sometimes take a bit of practice. But you have to give yourself grace there, because if you overcommit to something and you start beating yourself up because you haven't reached those goals, then that's a tough spot to put yourself in with your writing. It starts to create a sense of mixed incentives, right? Where you're trying to continue your book, but you're getting burned out, and now you're, potentially resenting writing, so you create a reason or an excuse not to write. It's a circle. So if you instead are reflecting on how those goals are making you feel at the moment, and are you underwater? Are you stressing out? Because if you are, one of the most important things you can do is put down the pen and go read a book, because nothing inspires people more and gets you back in the saddle than reading. And this is something that a lot of people might not tweak to initially, but the most productive authors are prolific readers. You get inspired by the narrative, you get inspired by the story and the things that, attach to you and how you see the world, whether it be a fiction or a nonfiction, is immaterial at that point. It's more, how do you relate to this story? How does it get to you? And then if there's something that you resonate with, you might be inspired to not copy it, right? But in literature, we call this standing on the shoulders of giants, which is that there are many people that come before us who have written their stories, fiction or otherwise. And there's only so many ways to express these stories. Shakespeare famously said, I think there was about 7 different stories to which all stories then derive from, right? And whether or not that is wholly true, the principle behind it is that we've probably seen something like this vaguely before. but we can get inspired by the people that we're reading and say, oh, you know what? I like that bit. I kind of want to work that into my story in some way. And so that's the expression that I like to use, because you're not copying people. You are standing on the forebears of people you have read, who are inspiring you to be an author yourself. And this is something where if you hit a wall, that is a very effective tool to get back in the saddle. Keeping your why in front of you, like I talked about before with that little sort of um, cartoon illustration. I have one on my desk, and it's, a little book with like finger guns and, like little Mickey Mouse gloves. And he's like, you should be writing. So something like that can be as innocuous as a reminder, or it can be something, much more sort of, large scale, like a screensaver on your computer where it says, have you done your writing today, or something like that. It can really be a big call to action if you want. But keeping your why in mind throughout the week will keep you motivated and engaged in your writing process, because so many people will encounter a pleasant distraction. And I'll get a little bit more to what that kind of looks like and means, because you'll see it when you'll know when it happens. And it's important to be, I think, emotionally honest with oneself about, am I creating a reason not to write? Because I have worked with thousands of authors and myself who have done exactly this. We create reasons not to write. And that's becoming, a serious problem for the productivity in your project potentially. So time bound. A goal without a deadline is an easy thing to postpone, right? If you don't have those chapter deadlines, then they become months or years. And I have spoken with authors over the years who have worked on the same book for a decade, almost as long as I've been here in this seat. Is people are still working on the same book, and it's tough. It's because they're held back by the dream of being an author, but not necessarily by the act of authoring, right? And so the thing that we postpone is easily dropped. And that's actually one of the reasons why I stopped working on some of the novels and the cookbook that I was working on, is that I got to a point where enough time had passed between my productive phase and the active phase of writing, or deactivated phase, where it was just sort of like, oh yeah, that was a thing I was working on. I guess, and it no longer even becomes a consideration. So keeping it engaged is really the most important goal, in my opinion. These checkpoints that you can set for yourself, they can be something that if you have a writing buddy, you can talk about and bounce off. If you haven't already got a writing buddy, hugely important. Kind of like going to the gym with a friend, right? If you are able to create a social call to action, whether it be like a writing group or things like that, where people are talking about their progress, it's not to shame oneself into keeping at it, but it does have this sort of collective psychology of, if everybody else is talking about their writing and you're thinking, geez, I should probably do that. As long as you keep attending these sorts of environments or going to coffee with your friend who's also working on a book, there is a call to action there. There's a reason to keep going. And that's about, the motivation that, many people tend to lose in the months that follow their initial infatuation with the storytelling. So overcoming writing obstacles: writer's block, self-doubt, lack of time, and of course, the worst one of them all, perfectionism. Writer's block is different for everybody. I think that the creative energy that comes from artists, right? Whether you're a sculptor or a musician, is you have to feel the muse. You have to know that this is something that you are called to do. And that can be challenging when life throws all these different pressures at you. But that's why when you do get writer's block, there are a couple of, I think, battle-tested ways to break through that. One of the most important, of course, is reading. If you have a space and a reading buddy like your partner, hop on the couch on a rainy afternoon and pop open a book. If your brain is dry of writing juice, there are ways that you can refill it. And sometimes it might take you a bit of time, and oftentimes people will fall off the saddle. But if you find ways to bring joy back into the process of reading and writing, those two are often interconnected, right? right? If you find that, you've hit a point of saturation with your own writing and you need juice, you can find that in the strangest of places, sometimes in different literature. But most often it's going to be within the same genre that you're working within. The best science fiction authors that I read are prolific readers themselves. And so that's where they kind of hit a wall. In some of their interviews, they talk about the process of kind of getting entangled in all of the different things that, writing might take from you. And so when your sort of writing brain is empty, finding ways to refill it that give you joy. Also very important. It's actually kind of amazing how big a difference this makes. But things like yoga or an act of personal fitness, whether it be a walk or a run or a hike or anything like that, can be so impactful because your brain runs on oxygen. And if you are well oxygenated, if you are feeling well, that sense of wellness can translate into your activities in writing. And so the mind, body, and spirit connection is something that not a ton of people talk about with creative endeavors. But, if this is good and this is good, then this will also follow, right? And it's that mind-body connection that I think has been much more emphasized in both recent psychology, right, in the science of health and wellness, but also the productivity of work. And this can also apply very specifically to your work as a writer. The low stakes effective strategy that I talked about is also good. I think that when you put yourself under immense strain and pressure, it can create that mixed incentive that I talked about, the negative feedback loop of I'm behind my writing. I need to catch up. I need to push myself harder. I'm further behind. I'm burnt out, so on and so forth. And so when you get to those moments where you feel like that strain is taking away the joy of writing, try reading, try doing the fitness stuff, try finding a way that fills your bucket. You can also express your artistic creativity in other areas like writing poetry or dreaming up a children's book because it uses a totally different part of your brain. And so if you're writing a narrative piece for a novel series that you're working on, and yet you find yourself struggling to kind of break through that next chapter where the characters are going to have a big moment, not a problem. Have you thought about doing a children's book? The stakes are much lower. There's whimsical and, hijinks and some fun. Maybe you're doing a book about farts. Great. Totally fine. It takes the pressure right off of you. And you can just sort of daydream that for a little bit until maybe you circle back to, okay, I'm back to ground. And of course, note that anything that you work on is going to be perfectly imperfect, especially the first time out. If you're not at a point where you have a finished product and you're a professional author, be kind to yourself because it's not going to be the magnum opus the first time out. It's going to be something that is both iterative and that you are best advised to give yourself grace and a break on. Because if you finish the book in its entirety and then you go back and revise it, that is often the most productive use of your time. Because if you stop and start and stop and start, this is something that I see authors do. And it's something that I've coined the term as writing vortex, right? Or revision vortex. You're working on chapter 1 for 2 years and it just keeps going like this because you're just not quite there yet. But it doesn't have to be perfect. Good enough is great. So self-doubt, something that can be challenging for everybody in life, but in particular for our artistic endeavors, the self-sabotage of this isn't good enough. That's something that I think in my own writing, I struggled with up until fairly recently, where I started taking a more kinder approach to my stuff, which is that it might not be for everybody and it might not be perfect. And I'm going to have to just be okay with that. Because in my line of work, having seen thousands of authors at this point self-sabotage, and implode their projects halfway through, it's tough, because there's a lot of reasons to keep going, but the person who makes the call on that is you. So if you have a writing buddy or a writing group, part of that, much like with personal fitness, is the sense of camaraderie and to create a connection with others, maybe at an emotional or personal level that says, yeah, I'm struggling too. This is something that I have had for a couple months. I'm still stuck here. Maybe what's working for you? Or you can watch videos from your favorite authors talking about the artistic process. And that might help you snap back from it because you'll hear something that cuts deep. It's something that you relate to, and you think, oh, if that author who's famous is but a mere mortal and a human being, maybe it isn't so bad, and maybe I can break through this. And so that's something that a lot of people miss in their initial forays into writing, is that if you follow like the famous people, they are but mere mortals as well, and they stumble, and it will allow you to see giants fall, and in doing so, you can redeem your own sense of purpose, right? Because if somebody else that's huge, it's a big deal, right? Like the Roger Federer of novel writing, if they can fumble the ball, then it's okay for you to do as well, right? And then you'll get a sense that you can re-up, especially if you spill your guts in a writing group. Lack of time is a big one for anything in life, especially for artistic endeavors where your attention is pulled in 7 different ways. What we talked about earlier with, the creation of those reminders and the dedicated time, that is time for you. That is time just for you and your art. It doesn't have to be for anybody else. It can be for a book of poetry, or it can be an act of self-expression that never goes anywhere further. But when you do that, and if you're taking a break from your active narrative and instead you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to write today, sure, but I don't feel like working on my book, but I can still write. So maybe try your hand at some formal poetry. Maybe try your hand at telling the story of your grandparents, which is a worthy thing that everybody should look to tell. Those are things that you can try to kind of deviate yourself from if you hit the roadblock and if you have a lack of time and energy to do your particular project. And your writing sessions don't need to be massive. I don't think that you'll get a ton done in 15 minutes, but a half an hour is still okay. But getting into the mindset of productivity also requires the closure of any other apps, no phone distraction, be in a space that has fresh air or that has greenery or that inspires a sense of wellness, because through that you get energy, and through that energy you will be productive in that hour of time. If you're in a dark corner and the laundry machine is going in the background and chaos ensues, you're not necessarily going to hit that same level of productivity. Perfectionism is tough because everybody wants their stuff to be great, the next big thing. But giving yourself grace, as I've mentioned, is super important, because it's not going to be this crazy, amazing thing out the gates. It will eventually be, right? But that takes iteration. It takes consulting with, an editor, and getting to that point where after, maybe the second draft, you're feeling, what, maybe this isn't quite so embarrassing. But just spill your guts and get that book done, because if you let the perfectionism in you hold yourself back, your book will never be finished. Very frequently, authors that I work with who are meticulous about every little thing being right, I've been speaking with them for several years, and at some points, they just abandon their project or they're working on something else because they just get all spiraled up in the web of self-doubt that perfectionism creates. So finishing your draft is better than a flawless opening chapter. That's the point. That's the sort of bottom line on that piece. So staying motivated for the long haul is also huge, because if you've got energy and you're feeling confident. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that I was still cool with time. If you're still feeling motivated with energy and productivity, then you're going to be able to stretch the writing process out for as long as you see fit. But giving yourself an achievable deadline can vary depending on how much time you have and how much writing you can do realistically in a session. One of the things I talked about is the concept of neuroplasticity. This is a fancy sort of psychology and medical term for the ability for your mind to open up and be dynamic and engaged in a sense of flow, right? You're not hindered by self-doubt or inner monologue. You're not hindered by the noises that are next to you. It's just you. It's your time. And so if you can find ways through personal wellness, like through meditation or through yoga or whatever works for you, that mind-body connection is huge in the stamina of writing and creativity. So you got to celebrate your wins, right? When you finish your first chapter, it's a big deal. When you finish your book plan, right? The thing that gets all of this started, that's a book deal, or that's a big deal. And when you are getting meaningful signs of progress as your character arc or as your story that you have been holding in your life for years is completed, that's a big deal. So when you talk to your writing group, when you talk to your writing buddy, when you're on the couch reading during your precious time that you allow yourself to read instead of write, you can chat with your partner and be like, yeah, you know what? I finished that chapter 2 and it felt really good. I'm not 100% on it, but like it's just been waiting to get finished. And now I feel a sense of relief that it's done, and I'll move on for now, and I can always come back later. But I feel like popping a champagne or something like that, right? Like whatever it is that you feel you can do to celebrate, it's those dopamine hits and those moments where you give yourself praise and potentially line up for other people that are supporting you to do the same. That is a positive act of affirmation, and I think that it's important to do. Flexibility is fundamental. No plan survives contact with the enemy. And the enemy in this case is the world around your writing. Everything is coming at you fast, your work, your daily planning, everything. But when you can create moments of zen and tranquility to be productive, right? That writing plan unfolds, and it will continue in the way that you allow it to. But don't be hard on yourself, because it's an easy thing to do. Negative self-talk and artists go hand in hand. It's like peanut butter and jelly. But if you can quell that by giving yourself that praise that you are richly deserving of, but also then couple that with, the reminders and other pieces that you have set in place, that plan will be elastic. And elastic is good. Rigidity does not survive an impact, right? Your plan shatters. But if you've got a little bit of give, we come back to that analogy of you can be the river flowing around the rock, right? You are liquid. So refine your approach. Keeping your goal in sight, flowing around the rock of life, your writing and your arts is the river. Prevent frustration from turning into avoidance. Big one. Big one. I mean, I experience this all the time. I've got stuff pulling me in 5 different directions, and I'd love to finish my source book that I'm working on. It's a big fantasy kind of source book, as it were, for everything in the world. And I'm passionate about it, but I've also got other things that I want to do with it. And so that frustration
Hi,
and the
Christopher.
negative.
Sorry to jump in here. Just wanted to remind you of time, because
Sure.
right now is actually time for Q&A. So if you could kindly wrap up as soon as you can, and then
Sure.
thank you so much.
I mean, most of these we've talked about in some sense or another, so I think that's fine. Reconnect with your why, visual reminders, talked a little bit about that too. And something to return when work feels hard. Accountability, having a friend, or group like this is helpful. Having a book coach, very good idea. It's worthy investing in if you have the interest in doing so. It doesn't have to be expensive, but book coaching is often very worthwhile. And so, the questions. So let's have a quick lookie.
Okay. Thank you so much, Christopher.
Of course, happy to.
That amazing presentation. I feel like this is the kind of clarity we need to turn. Someday I'm going to write a book into, a deadline on a calendar. So thank you so much. I'm going to open the floor for you to ask questions Okay, for everyone, if you have a question for Christopher, just write it down. Before we do that, I have one question and I want to ask you while we're waiting for others to just put in their questions down. In fact, we might just, because of the time, we might just be going straight to the live panel. But let me just ask you this one question. For someone who said, you know what, I get it. I want to tell my story. I want to, share my experience, put it into a book. But I have one major problem, and that problem is money. I don't have money to start. I don't have the financial capacity to write a book. What would you say to that person? And while you are at it, if you can, could you like break down cost, maybe the kind of what will it take to write a book? Is there like a cost to it and things like that? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I encounter that a lot, and there is no cost to write a book. As long as you have a computer, laptop or desktop, then you're in. I wouldn't really recommend trying to write a book on your smartphone or tablet. It's just not quite the thing it was designed to do. I've seen people try it. It's very difficult because the organizational space that you have to write is so tiny and constrained. As long as you have a device like a computer, and you can get a cheap one, right? Or you can get a used one. I have a used one that I use for writing on the go, and it cost me $200. So something like having your dedicated writing piece is very important. If it's mobile, all the better. Um, a laptop is usually the way to go in most cases because you can write on your couch. That said, um, I think that starting out, writing doesn't cost you anything. Writing shouldn't cost you anything. Investing in certain areas like editing, absolutely. That's later, and that is a factor that I can talk about till the cows come home because there's ways that you can fund your project that I think are no nonsense. But the bottom line is that like the writing side of it shouldn't cost you anything. Unless you're hiring a book coach or a ghostwriter or stuff like that. But the personal journey of writing is, do you have the space, time, and device, in this case, a laptop, to write? Outside of that, there's not really like fixed costs associated with writing the book. If you're doing a nonfiction and you're researching, you could hypothetically have to pay to get access to archives, or if you want to use images from an art gallery or an archive or the internet, you might have to pay for those images. But that's not necessarily on the writing side. That's more the publishing end, which happens much later. So the writing stuff, ultimately, zero cost. It should be.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that clarification. That takes a lot of burden away. So for those who want to start writing a book and they've been considering that the major problem they have is cost, now you have it. You don't need money to start a book. Now we're going to jump right into the live panel. So let me welcome Mine and Fejiro to join Christopher as we go right in to the live panel. So for many of you who have been wanting to ask questions, please feel free to, put on your camera and ask direct questions to any of the speakers, Fejiro, Mine, and Christopher. Okay. And if you are too shy to do that, feel free to just put it in the comment section. Okay. So can we have Fejiro and Mine back? Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much, all the speakers. You guys have done an amazing job. Now let me look at let me go through the comment section and see if there are any questions yet. Okay. Okay, someone and any of the speakers can actually answer. Mine, you can take it up. Federica, take it up, or Christopher. Someone is asking, could you share more about what a realistic writing schedule looks like, especially for a busy person with limited time? You want to quickly jump on that, Christopher, and then
Sure, yeah. I think that if you have an hour or two a week in a particular evening, then that's a good place to start. If you can allocate just an hour twice a week, you're going to be okay. If you are not able to commit 2 hours, I find that the half-hour block is not quite as productive from like a neurological, like writing psychology component, because by the time you start, you're having to stop. And so the kind of workflow of your brain, if you look at any kind of project writing in academia or in commercial writing, it's really the analysis is usually the first 10 minutes is like your brain kind of winding up, getting ready. And then once it's going, you can potentially hit that flow state. And the flow state really is in the terms of like the tech bro sort of world. You've got people that are trying to unlock the part of their brain that allows them to just power through, like get productive. So that's usually going to take a bit of a warm up and a cool down. And that's why the writing block is best considered at least an hour, but probably no more than 3.
Okay, great. Anita, you want to jump on that as well? Hello, Anita, are you with us?
Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah. Can you give your
Apologies.
take on that as well?
I think Christoph kind of said what needs to be said, but I feel like the most important thing is time management. How important also the priority that you place on the book. How
Okay.
important is the book to you? And even as the little as 20 minutes a day, you have to know that you'll be willing to sacrifice some time for the creation of the book. So let's say if you normally watch movies at a specific time, you might have to substitute the time you used to watch those movies for writing the book, or it's just a better time management. I understand people are busy, especially with kids and families
Yeah.
and dogs and all of those things, but it's all about allocating time. And I always recommend create a planner. That will be much better, or get an accountability coach or someone that can help you with time management. Yeah.
Okay, well said. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Someone is asking, what factors should I consider when looking at the length of a book? You want to take that, Anita, and then I pass it on to Christopher once you're done.
What factors should I consider when looking at the length of a book? It depends on the context of your book, like the story that you're giving. Most times you have to think about the lifespan of people, the attention span of people, because sometimes if you're writing a novel, we already know that it can be a bit more pages because it's entertaining, it's very nice, they can imagine it. But if you're writing a non-fictional book, like a self-help book, then you might want to think of, will I read a 300-page self-help book? I would not do that. So it all matters on the topic and also your audience. So if you know the audience are not the kind of people that the kind of book you're creating is not the kind of book that can engage, then you might want to reduce the type of, and then if it's a children's book, children are not going to sit and read a 100-page book. Let's be realistic. So all about the topic and then your audience.
Good, awesome.
Obina
Christopher, do
said
you agree with
audience.
her, or do you have something you want to add to it? Christopher?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. Length is often determined by age. If your target market is, for example, a 2-year-old, you're going to have, a lot less than 500 words. So market research is really helpful. When you set out to write, planning around who it's for can sometimes be awkward because the artistic process is very personal in nature. However, the book is a product and products sell and they have a market and they behave as a market good. So knowing uh, what frame of reference that operates in. Like, for novels, if you are doing a romance novel that skews towards, say, 30-year-old women and above, great. Are they going to be women who are university educated? Is there kind of complex themes? Or are we going with something a little bit more chill? So having the kind of dial set to the right audience will also show you how long it should be. As Anita mentioned, a long book isn't necessarily a better one, right? So know your audience and start from that first principle is my advice. Yeah.
Okay, great. Both of you mentioned audience. And in light of that, someone is asking, should I start building an audience before finishing my book? What would be your take on that?
Yeah, audiences are fickle. If you're famous And if you have like a large social media presence, or you are well connected in some regard, or if you're doing presentations and TED Talks, sure, absolutely. It depends on the kind of book you're doing. I work with a lot of self-help or subject matter expert authors who are big in banking or big in tech or whatever. And so their audience is somebody that they can already plug into and talk about their book. Whereas for most novelists, I would say probably not. Same with biography memoir. It's you want to kind of keep the lid on as long as you can, because A, you don't want people stealing your ideas, but B, it's also that there isn't necessarily going to be a receptive audience with fiction and sort of related content until it's just at the point where it's about ready to launch. An exception might be children's books, where if you have artwork and things that you can show, or if your book is on a particular theme, right? Then you can absolutely start building audiences and hype, because if it is a particular subject matter that has special interest to the public, charity, or things that are highly educational in nature, other languages, etc., then you absolutely could do some outreach, but don't do it too early, because the challenge is that audience fatigue is a real phenomenon. Like if you reach out and you tap your network and you're saying this book is coming, be ready, and then it doesn't happen for a while, then you're kind of popping the champagne before you're ready to serve, kind of thing, right? So it's going to be case specific. You speak to your kind of group and your experts. My advice would be, don't market the book until the book is ready. If you start pre-marketing, it might be a little bit premature.
Okay, thank you. Good advice.
Wait,
I mean,
I
if
just
you
wanna,
can hop in to answer any of the questions, that would be good as well.
yeah,
Otherwise,
I just wanted to touch upon
fantastic.
what Christopher said. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, like especially for the launching of the book, I would say have like the day that you've already, let's say you've uploaded the book already on the platform you want to upload it, you can do like a countdown for your audience, just so they know that it's coming at this specific date. That's what I do with my book. The book was already ready to go. It was already published, but just giving them warm up of, oh, this is what the book is about. They're just giving them a little bit of tidbits and tips here and there, so they understand why the book is coming out, what the book is for, and that way you can kind of build the audience anticipation, but also have like a fixed date, so they're not waiting for something that's not going to happen.
Okay, great, awesome. Now we'll move to the next
That's
question.
true.
Anissa, you want to jump in to say something?
No, I said that's true.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so let's move to the next question. Someone is saying, I'm wondering about how to decide on theme of a book. Do you have advice on how to settle for the theme, especially if you have more than one and not sure what to settle for? Who want to be the first to answer that?
Well, I would say if you're having like multiple themes that you want to write about, I would say decide on one first, because you
Okay.
can always write more than one book. You're not going to be stuck with one book for the rest of your life. There's so many genres that you can tap into. You can start with a self-help, you can go into fictional, so I would say the one that you have the most idea about at the moment, I think you should focus on that one and try to build it up, because either way, all of them, you're going to have to build up. But like the one that you have a little bit more clarity of what you want to say, the audience you want to talk about, like the topics, then you can start building on that first before you go to the other ones.
Okay, great. Christopher, are you still with us? You want to answer that as well?
That's right. I was muted there.
Okay.
Fiddling with the button. Yeah, I very much agree. Theme is complex because there's going to be like theme and genre are sort of interoperable in a lot of cases, where you've got, okay, what's the theme is the story is telling a sense of coming of age liberation, but the genre might be that this is a teenage coming of age romance, right? So seeing how those two connect is also important, because the genre and the theme are often super tied together, but not always. So if you research, your favorite authors that are writing within the kind of context of that genre, you can see what they're working with, right? Is this a theme of rags to riches? Is this a theme of, personal transformation or things like that? Theme is usually something that you don't see too many extra themes in, because it can be very complicated to work those in, especially if it's fiction. If it's nonfiction, the theme is best, as Anita mentioned, probably stick to one if you can, because you'll have plenty of opportunity to do more books. But the purest expression of the book comes from what is the message behind this? If I put this book down and I finish it, what do I take away from this? What is my aha moment? And so that really should be at the end of the book when people put it down, what do they walk away with? So that can be the final sort of delivery of your theme. And it can change throughout the writing, but it's best if you can to try and keep consistent.
Okay, great. Anita?
I think they've all said really,
Okay.
they've said,
Okay,
yeah.
good. Is there more? I don't know if there are more questions. Let me just give me a moment. Let me look through to see if there are more questions in the comment section. Okay, while we are waiting for that, I think I have just a minute, some questions. Someone is asking, what's the one excuse you hear most from someone who never finishes their book? Some people start a book. Can you all hear me? Yeah, some people start a book and they don't finish, right? Sometimes 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, they're still on that same thing. And then
Yes.
someone is asking, what is that one excuse that you hear most from someone who never finishes a book?
That either they don't deserve to write a book or they have lack of time management. They're too busy to actually focus on the book. I think that's the most excuse people make. They try to overcomplicate it. Instead of seeing it as building an actual system to write the book, they just end up installing it.
Okay. Anita mentioned time management when she was speaking last time. Anita, you want to jump on this?
There's so many you can list, actually. Time management, the current state of your mindset. Some people always say finances, but I don't think that's more of an excuse that I've heard a lot about finances. Some say writer's block, where there's a solution to writer's block. There's so many excuses that I've heard over the time, but one of the most important one I've heard is I don't think I deserve to write a book, or I'm not worthy to write a book, or who's gonna read my book, and why would they choose me? Why does my voice matter? So those kind of excuses are, like we mentioned earlier, identity-based, mindset, time management. Why are you even writing a book in the first place? That's your message, your why, and so many other things that are excuses, but they can all be resolved. Every excuse has a solution to it.
Okay, great. Christopher, this I want to throw at you first, being a publisher, right? If somebody let's say the person is maybe 40 years, 50, 60 years, 70, or even 80 years, and they're just starting to write a book, what would you say to that person? What would be your advice to someone who is that old and as against a new be like somebody's 20, 30, this person it's thinking, look, I'm well advanced in age, but I know that I want to write a book and I'm just willing to start right now. What would you as a publisher say to that person? Christopher?
You matter, you have value, and you're worth it. If you want to write a book, you should write a book. If you want to learn how to play saxophone, you should play the saxophone. No one should tell you otherwise. Age is a number, and in traditional publishing for a long time, obviously there was a bias towards younger authors in a specific age band, right? But the modern day is such that there are many successful authors that I have seen and worked with, and many others aside that are out there, doing their thing, that are in their 70s and 80s. So, age is not something that I think should hold authors back. It's an excuse, and it's definitely a thing that comes up. And a lot of authors that are doing their memoir biography they're more struggling with the technology side of things than they are with the writing. And so if they have a writing buddy, then it's much easier, right? Like a grandson, for example. I was helping my dad tell his story right? So that it passes on to the next generation for my kids. And I think that there's definitely a lot of love to be had for if an author is older, then they need maybe some help. That's perfectly okay. If they're visually impaired or what have you. So that's perfectly fine. But for older authors, there is no lost opportunity. There used to be in traditional publishing, but I think now there's so many ways for you to get your word out and to share your story. It can be a piece of legacy and it can be powerful. So whether you're young or old, it shouldn't stop you. Know that there are many authors that I've personally worked with who are, well into their 80s and their books are out there winning literary awards. So, what's my excuse? I haven't published yet, but I probably should.
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, you're saying that age is nothing but a number. So you can either write a book when you're 10 years or you're 100 years. Age doesn't matter. Is that correct?
You got it.
Fantastic. Anita?
I think Christoph said it very well. It's just a
Okay.
number. It's just a
Okay.
number. I think you need to don't be so hard on yourself. I think sometimes when it comes with age, there's the pressure of, have I lived life well? Is my experience worth sharing? But I always say that, life comes with experiences and experiences comes with lessons. So those lessons, if you made a mistake and you depend on whatever you're sharing in your story, believe that someone deserves to hear it and someone may be transformed by hearing what you have to share from the life that you've lived. So your age is actually an advantage because people will it is an advantage because people will look at someone that has experienced something that they're talking about. So yeah, don't give up on yourself and believe that your voice matters and your story deserves to be read.
Okay, good. And let's move to next question. Amine, I will start with you for this one. What's a mistake that you see first-time authors make that is completely avoidable?
First, figuring out the goal of the book. That's where everything stems from. Most people, I want to write a book, but they don't know the goal. They don't know the audience. They don't know anything about what exactly they're trying to put out. And then they get deep into the process and they either give up or they're stuck because they don't know what to do. But the first thing first that you can avoid is having a goal for the book. And even like when I was writing my book, I set like a timeline. I wrote it in less than 90 days. I set like a timeline for myself so that I have to give myself the accountability that I will not give up on the book. Because you can get so carried away with, oh, I'm busy, life, this, taking care of family, that you forget that there's also a piece of your legacy that is also meant to be written. So I think the most important thing is first having the goal of your book before you even start fully the process, knowing what is my book, why is this book being written, who is my audience, what do I aim to get after writing this book. And I think that's where, the basic foundation in which all authors should start.
Well said. Well said. Mine, thank you so much. Christopher, you want to add your voice to that?
I wholeheartedly agree. There's not a ton more to add other than that. I think sometimes people get really fixated on the title, which is really interesting because, there's kind of two schools of thought. You're either, I'm really fixated on the title and I haven't finished my title yet, so I can't write the book. It's like, what are you doing? Write the book. And you can just have it as, to be announced. And then there's other people who are, really focused on the first chapter and making it perfect, right? But, whatever the case is, I think the biggest issue is perfectionism that I see in holding people back because they get stuck at that first hurdle, right? They're not able to kind of just run with it, sort of thing.
Okay. Thank you so much, Christopher. This brings us to the end of the live panel. Thank you, Anita, Fejiro. Thank you, Mine. If you still do have questions, you can still feel free to put it in the comment section and we will deal with it later. And as we draw to a close, I want to bring in our founder, Fejiro Anita Ebono, to give us a few words. Anita, over to you.
Oh, well, thank you everybody for coming and for staying this long. Thank you, Christoph. Thank you, Mina. Thank you, Anita. Thank you all for actually creating your time and all of the people that are attending this. Honestly, I am excited and happy for you to start your journey. I'm gonna ask Christoph to send the link for the editing thing, and we're probably gonna post the link for you to book. They have a free consultation that you can actually attend, where you can have a call with them and just find out the way to go with that. I'm sure the team is going to post it in a second. So you can probably click on it and, click to access consultation. But for the editing, I would definitely get it from Crystal. Well, Crystal, we can post what the thing you want to use for them to be able to do the editing as well on there. But I just want to say thank you for investing in yourself. Being here is not a coincidence, it's an investment. And you saving your time. I know many of you want to do things with your family, it's the weekend, but you being here matters a lot. And I am so, so proud of you for actually creating the time to invest in your future. So as we close, I want you to find one word that you shared in the chat at the very beginning. When Anita asked, what is one thing that describes your feelings? Some of you said excited. Some of you said you're happy. And I want to make sure that that word hasn't changed. But I hope that you carry it with you as we end this session, that you didn't come here today to learn how to write. You came to remember that you already are the author. It's very easy for us to look at our lives and wonder, is it worth me writing a book? Well, I'm sure that with all the presentation, you know that your voice matters. So thank you for giving us your afternoon, and we'll see you again at the Purpose University. One more thing, if you, okay, all right, no problem. I'm gonna get the emails of everybody, and we'll probably send you something to do, or we'll send you in the follow-up email with the link to be able to access. But if you still want to book a consultation, we do have an affiliation with Fiercing Press, and you can book that. The link is already sent in the chat below. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. If you haven't had the chance to get the Author Within, I'm sure maybe some of you joined late. It's the guide that we have regarding this masterclass. It's a free guide. It's sent as well in the chat. Make sure you access it. Make sure you look at it. Make sure you review it. It's going to help you in your starting journey as an author. It talks about a little about, your identity as an author, why you should write your book, and so much more. Thank you once again. I'm really, really happy that you guys, chose to be here. And remember that before you write the book, you must become the author. All right. You can stay later on if you still have more questions, but I'm sure that many of the people are going to leave now, but I will be on here. If you still have more questions to ask, you can stay on here and just, catch up. Thank you very much. All right, Anita.
Thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to reading all your books, because remember, you are already an author. You're not just waiting to write a book, you're already an author. And the pen is in your hand. The pen is in your hand. So do something about it. Don't let people write your story. Don't let circumstances write your story. You do it yourself. And I look forward to seeing you at the top, and I look forward to reading your book. So thank you, and we will see you again next session. Anita, back to you as I sign off.
Bye-bye.
God bless you. This was very good. God bless you so much. That's all I can say.
Thank you for coming. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Anita. God bless you.
You're welcome. See
I'm
you guys
vibing to your
later.
rhythm. The beat moving my feet.
Where's the after party?
And gracious, I've been
Yeah, it's right here.
You got ears,
The
listen.
music
hear
is
the
already
music,
on for the
man?
after party.
You free. He got the keys. Open prisons. This ain't fiction. This is real.
Okay,
Let's
let's
dance a little
dance.
bit. We
Real
did
crimes.
it, guys.
He paid the price with his life. Don't think.
What happened to the music? I'm already dancing.
Oh, you're okay. Wait, give me a second. Give me a second.
I
Give me a
was
second.
dancing.
Hold on.